What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the House All Hangover with four-star Chicago sports guys. What's Ryan Poles talking about and with whom at the NFL Combine? That seems to be the buzz right now. A little more news on Maxx Crosby, or at least a report. Sounds like the Bears have valued Tyson Bagent at a second-round pick and only that for a trade. And possibly some more news, guys, about Tremaine Edmunds, which is a little shocking to me, but that and more after this.
Windy City banners rocking 4 stars aligned. Dynasty dreams rise, Bulls in their prime. Cubs curse shattered, the victory divine. Fields be running, clock ticking on my timeline. Shot-town heroes, legends never fade. Black Hawks flying, cutting ice with the blade. White Sox diamonds, the Southside parade. 4 stars shine bright, legacies they made. Mike with the crown, air rain, no dispute. Sweetness in the backfield, Walter in pursuit. Bear down Sunday's midfield, battles cute, Chicago.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us for another Household Hangover on a Monday, guys. We appreciate you being here. We are short again, Dustin and Sean. It's just me and Kyle doing the twinning thing again. Kyle, how you doing?
I think
on this
that's pretty
Monday?
much Mondays now. I think you and I are just Mondays now, bro.
It's just going to be called the twinning hangover. How you feeling today, Kyle? I know you
Doing good,
got
man.
some people in the family under the weather.
Yeah, well, this is a migraine, but I'm all right, man. I'm just not much going on in the world of the Bears, but there's just some interesting little notes and things that have come out lately.
Yeah, bear with us, guys. We're going to get through some content here. We're going to take care tonight, but Kyle does probably have to end this a little early. He's got some family things to take care of. Like I said, Sean and Dustin, still focused on family, still focused on home life, guys, which we all have to do at some point or another. That is the most important thing, especially over sports. Kyle, it seems like the buzz right now for the offseason, at least for me, the things that I'm most intrigued about is who Ryan Poles is talking to and about what when he goes to these combines. He seems to be a deal maker. This is when Ryan Poles is at his best, as Dustin put it. He's in his bag. I think he kind of feels like he's on top of the world right now. And I appreciate that Ryan Poles is letting the stadium stuff go by the wayside. That's not his business. He's got to focus on this roster and on football in general. He's getting calls. He's making calls. We know that, guys. Let's start with the name that I didn't really take all that seriously when the Bears allowed, I think that's the word they use, allowed Tremaine Edmunds to pursue a trade, but it's heating up, and I believe that Jeremy Fowler said there is a market. It was ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that said there is a market for Tremaine Edmunds. There are some teams that want to get better at the linebacker position that see him as a valuable asset in this league. Kyle, what are you hearing about Tremaine Edmunds? What are the possibilities? Are there specific teams that are involved in these discussions?
Yeah, Brian. So 3 teams have been confirmed to show interest in Tremaine Edmunds. It's going to be the Giants, Raiders, and Titans. It's a little interesting to me, man, because honestly, I think the writing's on the wall for Tremaine Edmunds. I think most of these teams in the NFL know that if he's not traded, he's going to be cut and he will be available. If he's cut, the Bears will be on the hook for I think $2 million. He's owed $15 million, so nothing serious. If he's cut, then teams can negotiate with him and they pay him whatever they feel like he's deserving. If they trade for him, they have to give him the $15 million that he's still owed. So it's kind of surprising to me that he's getting as much trade interest as he is, because I think if I'm a GM, I'd rather just wait for him to be cut, see if I can get him for 10 or 11 million instead of 15 million a year. But let's face it, man. I mean, Brennan, Tremaine Edmunds is still a good player in the NFL. He's certainly not a bad linebacker. And I think if the Bears weren't in such low or in such salary cap hell, they would probably consider keeping him. I mean, in his tenure with the Bears, Brandon, he's had over 100 tackles each season. He has 9 interceptions in 3 seasons. He actually leads the Bears in forced turnovers since he's been to the Bears. Now, it's kind of a skewed statistic, obviously, Brendan, because Kevin Byard wasn't here for the entire time Tremaine Edmunds was here, and obviously Nashawn Wright only played last year. So I'm sure those guys probably would have surpassed him. But considering he's now one of the longest tenured Bears, he's led the team in tackles, I think 3 times now in his career, and he led the team in tackles last year, Brendan, with missing a chunk of time. So, I mean, listen. Tremaine Edmunds still makes splash plays. He's still a damn good linebacker in the NFL. He's just, to me personally, not worth $15 million a year. I completely understand why he's the cut candidate for the Bears this offseason, considering they need as much help in the salary cap room as they could possibly get. But the fact that there's other teams showing interest, if you could somehow finagle or squeeze a 5th round or 6th round pick on one of these teams for Tremaine Edmunds, the guy you ultimately are going to cut anyway, I mean, I'm all for it, man. I hope Ryan Poles can find a way to make that happen.
All right, well, so it's up to Scottish and everybody who's in the chat. Kyle, I can't read them all that well. They don't really pull up here on my phone. So if you want to give a
Only
shout out to these
just
guys.
yeah, John's here, Breaking News Bruce is here, Scottish is here, and then we got 20 watching live. If you guys are watching on Twitter, please go over our YouTube channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. Brennan Scottish says, "I'd take a sixth, seventh, a sixth, a seventh, or a fifth would be great. I think it'll be cut, but I think it'll be cut." Yeah, that's what I was just saying, Scottish. I think unless one of these teams feels like if he gets to free agency, it's going to become a bidding war. So they have to make a move right now and go get him. If I'm one of these GMs, I'm just waiting for the Bears to cut him and signing him. But if one of these teams is willing to give up a fifth, sixth round pick to get Tremaine Edmunds in their building, I'm all for it, man. The Bears can use as much draft capital as they could possibly get. Remember, they are without their sixth round pick this year, right, Brandon? Was the sixth
Yeah,
rounder they trade for
yeah,
Shayanka?
Tryon, Shainka, yeah, and I mean,
Shayanka?
this is the tale of two Tremaines, guys. I mean, it benefits the Bears that this guy was playing at I would have considered an all-pro level before he was injured this last season. I mean, he obviously had some really good years in Buffalo, and statistically, he even improved when coming to Chicago. I don't think that the verdict is that he's out of gas or it's over for Tremaine Edmunds. I think there are a lot of teams in the NFL that still view this guy as a valuable player. So maybe just the idea of not allowing him to hit the open market, like Scottish says here, a sixth or seventh pick, knowing that you could acquire him with something like a seventh round pick without allowing him to visit other teams if you really had an aspiration to sign this guy or to acquire him, might actually pay some dividends to the Bears. And I do know that there was some rumors today, Kyle. I don't know who it was reported. I think this is just all hearsay, but the Raiders had been interested in putting Tremaine Edmunds in a trade conversation with Maxx Crosby. So I don't know what that would look like. But I do believe, he's not a fit for the Chicago Bears defense. That's been pretty obvious, guys. They lack speed. What's going on, Erica? They lack speed between Edwards and Edmunds. It looks like Dennis Allen wants to get faster at this position. He made that very clear in drafting, reaching on a linebacker and Ruben Hippolyte in the fourth round in the last year's draft. But I did say this on Thursday's show last week. Teams find themselves in a position where things like these might become necessary. The Buccaneers are still waiting to hear from Levante David if this guy wants to play football or not. I still think he can play at a high level, but if he decides to retire, they might find themselves in a bit of a hole. You might want that veteran leadership that you had in David instead of overhauling your linebacking core with just drafting young players. So there is a market. I do agree with Jeremy Fowler. The idea that Ryan Poles did this, and I think it took us all by surprise, though it is it's an intelligent move. I think it is because the worst thing that happens, like Kyle said, you cut him anyways. But if somebody calls, and even if it's a bottom round pick, you're getting something for a guy you would have otherwise gotten nothing for, right, Kyle?
Yeah, and so I've heard rumors, Brennan, that they were maybe thought about packaging Tremaine Edmunds in a trade so they could get something back, somebody like Crosby, for instance. But the only problem with that is that I think the only benefit or positive for the Raiders trading Crosby would they wouldn't be paying him the $36 million anymore. And if you did include a guy like DJ Moore in that trade package, they're going to take that $26 million salary, $27 million salary. Why would you take on another $15 million for Tremaine Edmunds and put yourself now you're
Yeah, the
paying those two
Vegas
guys
thing was the
more
one
than you
that
were.
made the least amount of sense to me. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I
Of all
mean,
the teams,
maybe if the Bears feel like there's somebody out there who could help them out. Like what would have been awesome, Brennan, is if instead of releasing Marshawn Lattimore, if the Bears could have just traded Tremaine Edmunds for Marshawn Lattimore straight up, that would be amazing. I think Lattimore's already been cut or is going to be cut in the next few days here, but I think that's somebody. If the Bears can find a way to finagle some salary cap room, if they can find a way to restructure some of these contracts, I think Marshawn Lattimore is a name. If I'm the Bears, I'm keeping my eye on for sure, man.
yeah, and I did hear, I read some speculative news that teams might inquire about the Bears restructuring Tremaine Edmunds prior to the trade, so they don't take the bulk of that contract. But I don't know why Ryan Poles would put himself in that position. You were just paying Edmunds more money to let him go somewhere else. Doesn't make much sense.
I do agree with you, though, man. I think Dennis Allen wants more speed, and like I said, I think Tremaine Edmunds is a very good player, and I think he could fit very well in certain schemes. But with this defense here, how the emphasis on speed and versatility, I just don't think Tremaine Edmunds is necessarily a good fit for Dennis Allen's scheme. I think he's still a good linebacker. I just over in Scottish Bear here says when Jackson was in for Edmunds, the defense looked better. I heard a lot of people say that, especially in the playoffs, because the defense got faster, but I just think with what the kind of scheme that Dennis Allen runs here, what he wants to do with these linebackers and with these nickels, I just don't know if Tremaine Edmunds is necessarily a good fit. And like I said, Brennan, before we move on, I want it to be known that I have no problems with Tremaine Edmunds at all. I like him a lot. I think from by all accounts, he's a very good dude. You never really hear much about him in the news. He's not like a prima donna or drama queen,
What's
anything
up,
like that.
Philip?
He comes in, he does his job, he goes home. I like him. I just think that if I'm the Bears, if I'm GM Ryan Poles, I agree that $15 million is probably just a little bit too steep for Tremaine Edmunds.
Yeah, I don't see him on this team, and he did play some quality football prior to his injury last season. But I think for that very reason, Kyle, I don't think that Dennis Allen is in love with this player, and I don't think from what I've read, is Dennis Allen wants to kind of overhaul this Eberflus identity this defense has had, especially in the front seven. I don't know that the secondary is going to be all that different than what it looked like last year. Besides the safety position, I think your corners are going to be who they are. You're probably going to have Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson playing the bulk of the snaps there. You've got Terrell Smith there still. You've got, say, Frazier. This front seven, guys, I think the idea is to just overhaul this and do it in the vision that in the vision that Dennis Allen has for this defense, because the same as Ben Johnson did last year, you've got to give a coach what he needs in order to run the scheme he wants. So is Tremaine Edmunds a part of that? I don't think so. And I if there's DeMarco Jackson is a guy is very likely to be signed by the Bears if the price comes right to replace Tremaine Edmunds if they don't feel as if they can do it all in this draft, which they likely won't be able to, guys. You're talking about possibly two defensive tackles, another end, two linebackers, two safeties. I mean, just at depth, even you still need two safeties, even if you sign one of these guys, Byard or Brisker. So there's a lot
Well,
of work to do here.
and with such a deep draft, the linebacker position, but there's still an opportunity that the Bears do draft linebackers, just not till the fourth, fifth round. So you'd want to keep DeMarco Jackson here anyway, because it's going to take these guys a little while to transition to the NFL. You can't expect to draft a linebacker in the fifth round of the NFL draft, and he's just going to come in and be a stud day one. You need somebody who has that veteran experience, somebody who can you can kind of plug and play while you're trying to groom your next linebacker to take over. My hope is that the Bears took a linebacker in the first 3 rounds, and he ends up being a starting caliber player within the first few weeks of the NFL season by week 4 or 5. But if not, I have a lot of faith in DeMarco Jackson. I like what I saw, man. He had a couple splash plays. You remember that the interception he tipped to himself. It's not like the guy was just purely a tackler. I mean, he's fast. He adds speed to this defense. I think Dennis Allen likes him. He has familiarity with him playing in New Orleans. DeMarco Jackson, if they could sign him for a couple $1 million a year, I'm all for it, man. At least a 1-year contract, bring him back in here. The Bears need as much help at the linebacker position as they can get right now, but we still don't know what to expect from TJ Edwards. I mean, I expect him to be okay and come back healthy because it was a clean break, but I mean, it didn't look good. It did not look good. I can
Yeah,
say that.
Noah Sewell suffered an injury as well. Ruben Hippolyte suffered an injury, guys. I mean, this entire
Well, no
linebacking
Sewell's
core
not.
has been injured at
He's a
one
free
point.
agent. So he's going to be a free agent, so it doesn't. No Sewell will not be back here. But Bernard, one thing I do want to talk about real quick, since you keep on
Well, Kyle,
talking
hold on,
about.
hold on. Me and Dustin did an off-season simulator, guys. Now these things don't hold too much weight or water because there was a lot of unrealistic,
Yes.
a lot of unrealistic. I don't know. Everything we did felt like it was almost going to be impossible in real life. We traded DJ Moore for the 14th overall pick in the draft and drafted Sonny Styles. That's not going to happen. But they had DeMarco Jackson valued at $11 million a year.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I
DeMarco
don't
Jackson ain't getting
see
$11
that
million.
be. I mean, is he potentially
That's
going to
no disrespect.
ask for his starting wage? And I do agree with you, Kyle. We haven't seen enough of him, but I don't think he's just a bridge player, a fill-in on your roster. When the guy got an opportunity to play, he made plays. He did.
Well, Brennan, now the linebackers position is almost becoming a rotational position. I mean, it's not with every team. Obviously, if you have a guy like Fred Warner, you want him on the field for every snap. But with certain teams, certain situations, because these teams are playing so much nickel now, these linebackers, when they have 2 or 3 linebackers on the field, according to which play they're running,
A lot of them are
it's
just putting
becoming.
edges out there in linebacker.
I mean, Brennan, would you have been upset if DeMarco Jackson was on the field when both Tremaine Edmunds and TJ Edwards are healthy? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I have no problem. Hey, give these
No,
guys
I,
a
I
breather.
actually
Give
I
these guys
actually
a
suggested it.
couple plays off. Yeah,
I
give
do
these
I do
guys a
want to
couple
say
plays off.
this. This position within this organization holds a lot of pedigree. There's a lot of nostalgia here, guys. You've went from Buckus to Singletary to Urlacher. I mean, this is a position that I want the Bears to address with priority. I don't want a 6th-round pick to be your starting linebacker when the season begins. I've said this, Kyle, I'm on record. If you guys go take a look at it yourselves, you will probably agree. This is a very strong free agent class of linebacker. If you choose not to wait till the draft to address this position, Leo Chenault, Devin Bush, Devin White. You've got some pretty premier names at the line. I think this is the best position in free agency is the linebacker. I do. I think the Bears definitely should take a look at who's available before they look ahead to this year's draft.
Albert Phil says, can you see the Bears trading back a few spots and pick Rodriguez, linebacker around 30, 34? I mean, honestly, I would be fine with Jacob Rodriguez at 25. Phil, I like him a lot. I think he's a much better player than people are giving him credit for. I think the closer we get to the draft here, he's going to sneak up into that first round, maybe late first round. If not, if you can get him in that early second round and you feel like he's going to be there if you trade back a couple of spots, I'm all for it. We've talked about this on the podcast before, guys. The Bears need a lot of depth on the defense side of the ball. If they can accumulate 2 or 3 more draft picks, that would be awesome. And to that point, real quick, guys, quick update on the Ian Cunningham situation. There is no way for the Bears to officially file an appeal in this situation. It's not something you can appeal. But Ryan Poles has reached out to the NFL.
Yeah, I think they filed a grievance, didn't they?
He's inquired why the Bears wouldn't get the 2 third-round draft picks. Now, I'm not saying anything's going to come of this. I'm sure the NFL is probably going to be like, "Hey, we made our decision. It is what it is. Guys, just move on." But I do think it's bullshit, and I certainly think that Ryan Poles deserves an explanation from the NFL and from Roger Goodell. Real quick, Bernard, since you talked about revamping the interior of this defense or the front seven, the Bears came out today. Actually, Brad Biggs came out today and said that the Bears are not only not taking trade calls for Javon Dexter, they haven't received any. They haven't called anybody about Javon Dexter. Brad Biggs reported that there's only 2 tackles under contract on the roster, so they're certainly not looking to move Javon Dexter. He was wrong there. It's actually 3, Brennan. You know, you have obviously Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter, and then Shamar Turner. But I think maybe the Bears might think about moving Shamar Turner to defensive end.
Was the Chris Williams contract a 1-year deal?
I think it was, but even if it wasn't, I think there was rumors that he was going to be released even before the free agency period began. So even if it wasn't, I don't think that the Bears have any plans of him in the future.
Let's talk about this guy. We've disagreed about Javon Dexter through the entirety of his career. I have said many times, guys, I do believe. The Oilers just acquired Connor Murphy from the Blackhawks. Jesus, man, with these fucking Blackhawks just content with allowing talent to leave this team. But I do want to ask you this, Kyle. Considering this guy is going to need a contract, and I was actually looking into his potential market value. It's looking like $15 to $16 million a year for Javon Dexter. I'm guessing that's strictly based off the sack numbers because he is up there. At the tackle position, he has the ability, guys, to ask for the money that I think that he will. And he's got a contract year coming. If you could acquire a high pick, even though this was all rumored, Kyle, is it something that you would take phone calls about?
Well, I mean, depending on the pick, but I mean, obviously, if it's a high pick, I'm all for it. But
they were saying second, third round pick is the least. He would be required because, like I said, if you're looking at $15-16 million market value, guys, in regards to draft picks, that's a day 2 pick. You're not going any further.
Bears fans have complained about the depth on the defensive line as it is. I mean, people keep saying we need to upgrade the positions. We need to upgrade the positions, but upgrading and replacing all the guys that are here doesn't create any depth, right? You're just getting rid of the guys that are here and adding studs. But
are you going to pay Javon Dexter?
Well, maybe not. Maybe the Bears are fine with him playing 1 more year here and walking. I mean, that's totally up to Ryan Poles and this coaching staff. Right now, with only 3 defensive tackles on the roster, and with the fact that there is no rotational pieces, you still don't have that stud. You need to keep all 3 of those guys here. Listen, I know Bears fans have complained about Grady Jarrett. I know they have complaints about Javon Dexter. They say he takes drives off or takes plays off, but Javon Dexter serves his purpose. He's not the best defensive tackle in the NFL. He's probably hasn't lived up to his second round hype, but at the same time, Brennan, he does make good plays here and there. He has good games, and like I said, you need rotational pieces. Maybe if you could take a little bit of workload off of Javon Dexter and Grady Jarrett and get 2 studs here in front of Shamar Turner, Javon Dexter, and Grady Jarrett, maybe those guys get better. The more time you give them off, the bigger breathers you give them, the longer their spans they're not on the field. Maybe they get better when they are on the field. I'm fine with Javon Dexter staying here. I don't think he's like a terrible player by any means necessary. I think Bears fans tend to give guys more grief when they're drafted high or when they're paid and they don't feel like they're living up to their contract or their draft position. But if you ask the other 31 teams in the NFL and ask their GMs, Brennan, I'm almost positive almost every single one of them would tell you Javon Dexter is a good rotational piece. He's certainly not a star. He's not a stud, not somebody who's going to anchor your defensive line. But for a guy who, if your studs need a play off, he's certainly not the worst option out there to come in and give him a breather. Well, I'm fine with Javon Dexter here next year.
What he's not is a 3-down player, and he's out of
Yeah,
necessity.
maybe not.
That's the way he's been used, and it doesn't look good on him. But I don't hold it against him because if he's a guy who's used in a rotational package to get after, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I do think a lot of the sacks have kind of fallen into Dexter's lap, but he's got the numbers. I can't dispute that. I don't want this guy on the field when you feel like you're going to defend the run. He has no place on the field. He really doesn't. That's my biggest criticism of Javon Dexter. It's not about. I'm done with the comparisons to
All
the
right, well then,
guys that
Brendan,
got
then keep
drafted
him
the year he
here.
was.
Then keep
He,
him here and use him in situational role. Like use him in a situational
he
role, third
cannot
and
be on the
long,
field.
third. But you
He
can't. You have
cannot
to
be
have.
on the field.
What I don't understand is Bears fans want everybody. They're like, cut Grady Jarrett, get away, find a way to get him off. Get Javon Dexter out of here. Okay, so you guys, you can't have 2 defensive tackles. You need like 5, so you can rotate them in and out. There's not a defensive tackle in the NFL that plays every single snap. What I'm saying is Javon Dexter the best in the world? No, but as a rotational piece, a guy who's coming in after maybe some stud that you draft at 25, a guy who's coming in to back him up, or a guy to play situationally, like when he's only rushing the passer and he's not playing the run. I don't think Javon Dexter's the worst option in the NFL. And then Vernon Romey, real quick, Romey says all 3 defensive tackles will be gone after the season. And True Pilgrim packs me up there and says, I was just about to say that. You guys, I don't think Shamar Turner is going anywhere. I understand that obviously the injury was terrible for him to start his career as a rookie. And he was drafted injured. We all know that. We've talked about it for hours on this podcast. But I think Shamar Turner is probably going to be here for the duration of his rookie contract. I also think Shamar Turner, in the little stint of time that we saw of his last season, I think he looked pretty good. Now, listen, once again, that doesn't mean I'm coming on here and saying I think Shamar Turner is going to be the best defensive tackle in the NFL. What I'm saying is every team in football, guys, has these situational guys or rotational guys who aren't stars. Unfortunately, you can't pay every single player on your roster millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You have to have some guys who are average to above average. And that's what Dexter and Shamar Turner are. And that's the role I expect them to play here when Dennis Allen completes this roster.
Well, Javon Dexter's on a contract year, so the hope is that this guy plays his best football in this upcoming season. But then the double-edged sword of that is that he will ask for even more money than he's already projected. I don't see a world in which Javon Dexter is given a second contract on this football team. That's why if I was dangled a day 2 pick, it's something I would definitely consider. My biggest issue with Javon Dexter and with Andrew Billings and with Grady Jarrett, guys, and I've said this time and time again, is no matter how well these guys might get after quarterbacks, when you don't have a single player on your roster who has the ability to consume 2 blocks, the pocket will always exist. We watched every quarterback the Bears played, Jordan Love, Malik Willis, Jared Goff, these guys just Matt Stafford in the final drive of that game, especially these guys just stepped inside an open pocket, and the inability for the edge rushers to get home, because I thought the edge rushers at the end of last season were playing really aggressive football. When the quarterback just needs to step inside, the guys on the edge become almost irrelevant, and that's the thing that the interior defensive line on this Bears team just cannot provide. There's not a single player on this roster that can deal with 2 blocks. Now, something that's intrigued me, Kyle, you've heard me say it for years. The Bears still haven't done it. They haven't even tried. Dennis Allen loves versatility. I wouldn't mind watching one of the strongest players in combine history, in Javon Dexter, play on the edge. I wouldn't hate to see it.
I mean, I
This
think
guy has a bull rush, and that's it.
everything's on the table.
And he stands up.
I'm
So
pretty
he's a guy
sure.
that might play better on the edge than he does on the inside.
I'm pretty sure when it comes to Dennis Allen on this roster, basically everything is still on the table. I mean, listen, like I said, is Javon Dexter a world beater? No, but for somebody who I think Bears fans will change their opinion on him really quick if he becomes like the 3rd guy on the defensive tackle position. If he's like the 3rd guy at the defensive tackle position, if he's not expected to start and play almost nearly every single snap like he was at the end of last season after Shamar Turner was injured, and we all know Grady Jarrett's not capable of playing every snap. I mean, Javon Dexter was on the field a ton,
Yeah, more
an
than he
absolute
needed to
ton.
be.
And
And
if we do draft 2 studs here, if you say you sign one free, say the Bears decide to sign John Franklin Myers and then go after one of the guys these guys are talking about in the chat here, and Javon Dexter ends up being their number 3 defensive tackle, I don't think people are going to be complaining about him. I think you're going to like what you see from him when he plays a much shorter, smaller sample size. I mean, Brendan, you said it yourself. Is he the best defensive end or tackle in football? No, but he was one of the highest in terms of sacks, and he has been since he was drafted here. The problem with Javon Dexter, if anything, is he's just inconsistent. When
what's
Javon
up there,
Dexter's
Skip?
playing well, he's playing very well. And when there was games where he was the highest defensive graded player on the Bears per PFF. And I understand some people don't give a shit about PFF, but there's other games where he was near the bottom. I think Javon Dexter is just going to be a situational type player.
This
I think that's what his
true.
career is. I think that's what his career is gearing towards. I think he's just going to be a guy who's going to be on the field and
Kyle,
passing down situations.
Go back to that True
What?
Pilgrim said. This is my biggest criticism of Javon Dexter. The cons that were in his draft profile before he was drafted, the inability to anchor, the standing up, the slow off the snap, are still his biggest problems. Now, is there a possibility, Kyle, that if Javon Dexter did play, that third role on the interior off defensive line, that his cost comes down? My biggest concern, guys, is no matter what Javon turns into this year for you, whether it's the same old Javon that's good one game, bad the next, can exploit a bad offensive line, but gets beat by a good one. Is he still a $15-16 million player when free agent comes? I that's my biggest concern. Are you going to just lose your second round pick to free agency versus getting nothing in return?
Well, I mean, that happens a lot. I mean, I think some people are under the.
This is a second round pick, man.
Some people
These
are
are the
under the
guys you
assumption.
want to get another
Sure,
contract.
sure.
If you're a
Zach
general
Ekins is
manager.
cut. He's a third round pick. Of course, it's disappointing, but I think some people are under the assumption that every time a player's on an expiring contract, you're going to automatically trade him so you can get something in return. But the fact of the matter is, some guys just play out their contracts here and they walk into free agency. And it's at this point in the NFL, you need a 53-man roster, you need 5 or 6 defensive tackles on the roster. That's going to be the case sometimes. Sometimes you just have to keep these guys here until their contract's up. I mean, the Bears can't have 2 defensive tackles on the roster going into the draft, or they're going to have to go defensive tackle, defensive tackle, defensive tackle. Javon Dexter, like I said, in terms of rotational piece, if you don't consider him a starter, you don't consider him our Jalen Carter. We're going to go get that guy in the draft, and Javon Dexter becomes Jalen Carter's backup. I don't think he's the worst option in the world. I think he's actually a much better player than people give him credit for. Now, listen, I would love to see the Bears go draft a stud 3 technique and a stud 1 technique. I want to see them replace the guys on the interior defensive line, because obviously it wasn't working last year. But you give this guy another year, another offseason with Dennis Allen, and you keep him off the field a little bit more, let him catch his breath every once in a while. And I'm thinking Javon Dexter is probably a little bit better than people think. Now, listen, like I said, when the Bears defense looked as bad as it did at points last season, and they're ranked 29th, 25th, 26th, and all the metrics, of course, people need a scapegoat. People are going to be upset. And probably the biggest concern they had in the last season was the pass rush, and probably from the center of that defensive line. But I just don't think you can blame it all on one guy. I think this is going to take a team effort. I think they're going to have to rebuild the defensive line like they did the offensive line, but you still have to have those rotational guys here, man. There's a reason that the Bears didn't part ways with Ryan Bates last year. There's a reason the Bears drafted Luke Newman. I mean, of course they're happy with Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Tooney, but you have to have guys. You have to have depth at every position. And if Javon Dexter is considered our depth, it can get a lot worse than that, guys. A lot worse than that.
I think, regardless of what happens with Dexter this season, his production, if you're talking about A, overpaying a guy, or B, making a guy a depth player who was a former second round pick, I think you missed. I do. And my only defense for Javon Dexter is, and I've had a major shift over the last couple of weeks here, guys. I was all about the 3 tech. I do believe the 3 tech anchors your defense in its entirety, but because you can't give that pocket to these opposing quarterbacks. But I don't know that any of these guys, if you go draft yourself a monster 3 tech in the first round, guys, some guy that you hit on, he ends up being a really good player. I still don't know how easy it is for these guys, for the edge rushers and these 3 techs, if you don't have a nose tackle. I've done so much homework in this, guys, with these stuff numbers where, you have quality defensive tackles in the league averaging 9 to 11 stuffs per season, and you got guys like the guys on this Bears team that are averaging 3 to 5, and you don't have a guy that can consume the 2 blocks. It's 4 versus 5, Kyle. It always is, right? It's always 4 versus 5, and the only way it works is if you got that guy in the middle that's next to the 3 tech that can take on 2 blocks. Because if, let's say Javon Dexter is a man beater, let's say that when Javon Dexter does get one-on-one, that's when we're watching him play his best football. It doesn't happen. Javon Dexter doesn't often get to play one-on-one because the guy who's playing next to him can never fucking consume two players at once, and that is the purpose of a nose tackle, to make the three players beside them have one-on-one matchups with the guy across from them. And I don't know how often that's happening on this defense, guys. Billings is not it. Um, Jared is not it. These guys are not. They're not nose tackles. They're really not, in their nature. They're just not. There's nobody on this team that I could
Oh,
say
Jared's definitely a
is.
three tech.
None of these guys I could say are comparable to some of the best nose tackles in this league. And as long as you don't have that, I don't know if the rest can operate. I don't know how bad Sweat and Booker and Dexter are until you get a player on this football team that's doing the job that the nose tackle is supposed to be doing. And nobody is. And that's killing them. That's
Burn
killing this team.
real quick. Phil says Day was paid way too much. Part of the cap space problem Poles dealing with this offseason. Yeah, I think we all agree with you, Phil, that Deo, I mean, first of all, once again, just one of those contracts Ryan Poles signed based off projections. I mean, the guy was never a double-digit sack guy. Ryan Poles brought him here thinking he was going to get better and he was going to turn his career around and be one of the best defensive ends in football here on the Bears. I think he's the fourth highest paid Bear next season. That was definitely a swing and a miss, no question about it. And that is definitely a huge reason why the Bears are in the situation they're in. Listen, Ryan Poles has made mistakes. There's no doubt about that, guys. But at the same time, I mean, in his fourth year of his first contract, the Bears were a field goal away from the NFC Championship game. So it's kind of hard to decipher what exactly is Ryan Poles' fault. What was we still don't know who hired Matt Eberflus in the first place. We don't know if that was 100% Ryan Poles' decision or if that was kind of dumped in his lap. I mean, there's just a lot of things this organization did wrong. We know they built this thing backwards to begin with. I feel like they finally got it right, and now to try to fire your GM and bring another guy in here, we might screw it up. So, if I'm the Bears, as a Bears fan, Vernon, I'm staying patient for a couple more years, seeing what Ryan Poles can do to address this defense. And if he can't fix it in the next couple of years, then probably time to move on. But real quick,
says Crack is telling me the probability of a second round pick being retained in a drafted team for a second round contract is 22%, which is very low. Split for 30% for a high second round pick. I wouldn't disagree with you because it looks to me, if I'm a betting man, Jaquan Brisker and Javon Dexter will not be on this team. At some point, these guys will not be retained,
yeah. But don't you think Brisker's probably more?
Luther Burden's going to remain on this football team.
Don't you think Brisker is probably more of injury situation? I mean, I think they like Brisker.
I think it's a money situation.
I think the Bears like Brisker. I know, but I think they probably would have been more open to extending him earlier in this process if he hadn't been knocked out every 3 weeks. I mean, they probably could have extended him at the same time they did Kyler Gordon last year. They could have extended both of Ryan Poles' first picks as a Chicago Bears GM. But when the guy is constantly missing football due to concussions, I don't blame them for being hesitant about that. Listen, there's a lot of Bears fans that still love Jaquan Brisker and want him to play on this team next year. And I'll tell you what, I know you have to take the sample size of his entirety of his career so far, but man, did he look good against the Rams in that playoff game. I mean, it seems like Javon Dexter steps up when it matters most. I just think it was more a situation where they were like, hey, what if we sign this guy to a 3-year deal and he gets knocked out week 2 next year? Like, then his career, you might be talking about the end of his carear.
Kyle, do we know Learn Sapir Vadir?
Yeah, he's here all the time. What's up, man?
Okay, so I like this comment. I want to address this. All I hear folks talking about is defensive line. So we finally have a QB, finally have a play caller, and nobody thinks we should spend our highest resource on a left tackle. I would disagree that, well, at least on this channel, that's not something we've talked about. I believe it bothers me, Sapir, that every mock draft has defense, because I believe that if Ben Johnson thinks that the best player available is a left tackle, he's not going to hesitate at all to pull the trigger. And I also don't like that we don't see any trade backs with the first round pick that the Bears have at the 25th position. This is not a top 10 pick. I think Ryan Poles is looking at this as leverage. He's looking at it as flexibility. But I agree with you, man. If you get to that 25th pick and the guys that you want on the defensive line aren't available, and there's a left tackle there that you really like and you have high on your board, Kyle, that's something Ben Johnson's going to do, right? And and not for lack of trying, right, Vadir? I mean, they did draft Karan, they did draft Trapillo, they did draft Braxton Jones. Ryan Poles has tried to hit on this position. It hasn't, and the one guy who looked the best suffered a really, 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 really tough injury to come back from. That's not on him, but they have tried. They have tried to solidify this position time and time again. It's not going all that well, Kyle.
Well, I think Chassis Trapillo was. I think they hit a home run. You can't. There's nothing you could do about a ruptured patella tendon. I mean, I know people keep saying that might be the end of his career, sure, but that's not. That's certainly not the fault of Ryan Poles or Ben Johnson. I mean, Brennan, you know what I think. I think Ben Johnson is more concerned about the offense than anything. He thinks that this is a quarterback-driven league, and he's going to be his main concern is always to make sure that Caleb Williams is comfortable and there's no excuses. So if there's an elite left tackle there at 25, do I think it's out of the
Yeah, he's going
question
to
the
take.
Bears select him? No, absolutely not. I think
I
he'd
think it's
be. I
more
think he would
likely
be.
they do.
Yeah, I think he'd be very high on their list, and I think that's the reason that Sean and I are considering doing left tackles profiles on the Barely There podcast coming in the next couple Wednesdays, because I think people are sleeping on the Bears drafting an offensive player. Now, listen, I understand they need to
There's some good ones,
draft defense, but Brandon, what's the most important position on a football field outside of quarterback? It's got to be left tackle, because if your left tackle is not good, your quarterback gets hurt,
well,
then it's all the same,
snapper.
right? Brandon, Lauren says the entire defense, including Dale, were hurt most of the year. The defense isn't as bad as people think. We had as many missed games as the Niners did, but nobody's talking about that. Hey, Lauren, just so you know, man, we talked about that at nauseum on this podcast. We all agreed that if the Bears defense had been healthy all season, they probably would have been closer to the middle of the pack as opposed to that late or the back half of the pack. But at the same time, you're always going to deal with injuries in football, and at some point you're going to have to address the depth. I mean, the Bears can't just keep using excuses as to why their defense isn't playing well. If they have guys who are prone to injuries on their defense, guys like Kyler Gordon and Brisker, then they need to start backing these guys up with better deep depth. They need to start addressing the depth on this roster.
I think. Listen, I've said this before, and
I don't know about one of the best.
Maybe remember this, guys, when
better than people give them credit for.
I think it's kind of ridiculous that with Ben Johnson being the head coach of this football team, and like Kyle said, whenever the offense whenever it feels like Poles has done enough, he does more. I think it's ridiculous that all these mock drafters are just tossing aside the idea that Ben Johnson might take a left tackle or an offensive player with the first pick in their draft. I also think that I haven't seen it in mock drafts that these guys are doing. They do put trades, Kyle. They're putting the teams that they think don't hold as much value over their picks as they should, and they trade back. I haven't seen a single mock draft where the Bears get rid of this pick and collect a few more. And that kind of boggles my mind a little bit too. It would not shock me.
I mean, what is a mock draft, right? I mean, who cares? I mean, Ryan Poles is going to do whatever he wants, and he's not going to consider what people say.
And don't you think that this 25th pick, with a guy who spent the last 3 years, Kyle, selecting players in the top 10 in the first round, who now all of a sudden, it's not like you're going from top 10 pick to 15th. It's not like you're going from a top 10 pick to 13, 14, 15, 16. I mean, this guy just dropped into the bottom 7 picks here. I don't think that I would imagine that Ryan Poles is looking at this pick a little differently than the average Bears fan is. Like, it's not what you think it is when you're comparing it to what it's been the last couple of seasons. I can use this pick to do more in this draft than to acquire a single player. I would imagine a good GM has his sights set on that.
Well, it depends. I mean, Brendan, if you think a world beater or a blue chip quality player falls to 25 and the rest of the league just didn't see it,
happens
I mean, I'm just saying, if Ryan Poles does and he thinks the rest of the league just didn't see it. I mean, Brendan, Nicky Muori was drafted in the second round last year. He might be the best player in last year's draft. There's a very good chance he was the best player in last year's draft.
And you could have traded back out of 25 to get him.
Yeah, if there's a guy there at 25 and you feel like you got to take him when he's there and he's going to change the entire complexion of your defense or your offense, then I'm taking him. Listen, I also like what Bearskin Matt says. He says, I get the idea of left tackle, but I think just draft best player available on board. There's probably a very good chance that's what's going to happen, Matt. But if it's a left tackle that just so happens to fit one of your needs, I would be fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. Listen, you guys, if the Bears draft defensive tackle, I'm not going to be upset. If the Bears draft left tackle, I'm not going to be upset. If the Bears draft defensive end, I'm not going to be upset. If the Bears draft a linebacker, I'm not going to be upset, because listen, last year, I think there's a lot of questions asked about the draft after it happened, and the talent on the field answer all those questions. I mean, the Bears were ranked the number 1 draft class in the NFL last year. They took a lot of grief for drafting a tight end at 10. They took a lot of grief for drafting a guy who was injured in Shamar Turner, for drafting a right tackle to play left tackle. And outside of Shamar Turner and Zay Frazier, which were injuries that you can't predict in any way, shape, or form, most of these guys panned out to be damn good players. I mean, they took a running back in the 7th round who ended up with almost 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns.
And they were much better drafting on offense.
I trust them. I trust Dennis. If Dennis Allen goes into the war room and says, "Hey, Ryan, you're going to use that 25th pick on defense," and Ryan says, "I believe so," because it looks like the best players available are defensive ends and tackles, and he decides to take a tackle that Dennis Allen wants, I'm all about it. I trust everything they do until I see something that doesn't work. And so far, this coaching staff is like 10 out of 10, Brent.
I forget who it was, Kyle. There was a study written last year. I talked about it in the off season. I don't remember the name, but and you guys might. There's probably a lot of people in the chat that are going to hear this and dispute it, or at least think that's crazy. But they think, on average, each draft holds about 6 blue chip players, and then beyond that, you go from that.
Dane Brugler says
Wait,
8 to 12, Brennan.
okay,
8 to
so
12 blue
you're
chip.
going from that. Let's say 10. Let's call it an even 10. You after that 10th player, they say that the guy from 11 all the way to the high second round, you're looking at a pretty level playing field in regards to talent. So if Ryan Poles feels the need to get out of the first round and go somewhere in the high second, I don't see a problem with that either if he can acquire some more draft capital. And a draft that's loaded with good players at a lot of positions on defense, especially. So I'm not opposed to Ryan Poles taking a left tackle, Ben Johnson, I should say, because that's who's making that pick. And I'm not opposed to Ryan Poles trading out of the first round. I'm not. I think there's a lot of
I
things that
wouldn't
can be
be
done.
surprised at all if he trades out of the first round. We've seen him trade. Ryan Poles is known for trading back. He's done it plenty of times here. It's not something that's out of the
And I
question.
don't I
I
don't
just,
love the
if
25th pick.
it depends who's
I
there.
don't know where the talent
I'll
falls
tell you
off,
how
Kyle.
I'll tell you
Where
how I
does
feel
it
about
fall?
the
Well, let me
25th
ask Kyle,
pick
where
when the
does it
Bears are
fall
up to
off?
draft.
Where does it fall off?
I don't think. I mean, Bernard, we've seen guys like Tyreek Hill drafted in the 5th round. I've seen Cooper Kupp drafted in the 3rd round. I don't think it's necessarily about where it falls off. I think it's about your scouting department, how well you are at evaluating talent. If you can find a guy at 25 who you think is probably should have been a top 5 pick and everybody else just screwed up. I mean, Jared Verse went, what, 15? I mean, you talk about all these guys who slipped through the cracks, and then these teams, Kyle Hamilton with 16. These teams are sitting there like, I can't believe this guy wasn't drafted top 5.
Yeah,
He's going to be one of
there's
if that
always a
guy's there at
stupid.
25, that if you think that's him, then take him.
It
If you
seems
think
like
Nick
safety,
Rory is
right?
there, then take him.
Right?
Take him.
You had Hamilton, you had DeJean, you had Humaniori. It seems like the safety is the thing that always seems to find its way into the second
Yeah, I don't
round.
think safety is a high priority in the draft. I don't think you're ever going to see. I think it's very rare you're going to see safety drafted like top 3 picks in the NFL draft. I just don't think people think that. We talked about this a million times, right? The positions you want to find in the draft are the high value positions. So left tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, defensive end. The guys you're going to have to pay a lot because you get them on rookie contracts. You can find safeties in free agencies like guys like Kevin Byard who are relatively cheap and affordable. You don't have to worry about it. It's the premium positions that you want to draft because you don't want to. If you go try to sign a guy like Trent Williams in free agency, you're talking about $40 million a year. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that guys safeties and corners fall further than defensive ends and quarterbacks and tackles. It's not surprising in any way, shape, or form. Brennan, I'm glad Matt asked this question. He says, what do you think is better for the Bears? Sign Trey Hendrickson 2 years, $60 million and restructure a lot of guys kicking can down the road versus trade DJ first and a third for Crosby. Guys, there is some news in the Crosby.
DJ first and the third. That is far too much.
There is some news in the Crosby department here, guys. Albert Beer of Sports Illustrated is reporting that Maxx Crosby could trade for Maxx Crosby could happen as soon as this week. It's believed that nearly half the teams in the NFL would be interested, but the only teams that have been mentioned in connection with Maxx Crosby are the Cowboys, Eagles, Bears, and Lions. I think there's a damn good chance that if the Raiders call about
The Lions are a team I called out a couple weeks ago, Kyle. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, that would suck for the Bears, but there's a damn good chance that if the Raiders call about DJ Moore and the Bears can finagle a trade so that there's not 2 first-round picks included. So maybe if their 25th pick in the draft this year, DJ Moore, and a second round next year, I think there's a damn good chance that Maxx Crosby will be playing for the Chicago Bears week 1 of the NFL season. But I'll tell you this, Brandon, it's going to be tough to talk them off the ledge and tough to negotiate with them if half the teams in the league are calling and negotiating with them. So somebody's going to be willing to give up 2 first-round picks. So my aspirations for Maxx Crosby playing on the Bears, although I'm excited about it, yeah. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily.
I don't think we trade 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby, and I think Crosby's a hell of a player. I'd rank him a top 3 at the position. I really would, but the health alone removes one of those picks off the board for me. This guy doesn't play a full season. He hasn't in a long time. He probably won't. I do want to say this, guy. I don't want to glaze over it. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I'm out on that. I'm
2 years,
$22
$60
million is a lot of fucking money, man. This guy is going to be 31 years old when this season begins. He's had some injuries on his own. His pass rush win rate numbers
Thanks, Phil.
tanked, and I know that he had some sacks. I think he had 4 sacks in 7 games last season, which kind of implied that he probably would have been over that double-digit mark, but his pass rush win rate fell outside the top 50, and I'm not ready to commit $22 million to a guy who looks to me, Kyle, I like Trey Hendrickson. He's played his ass off for a defense that can never do anything, but it looks to me, right, like he's right. I mean, is Trey on the other side?
I mean, naturally, right? Nobody beats Father Time. Trey Anderson's going to be what, 32 years old, 33 years old? I mean, it's at some point, yes, he's not going to have 17 and a half sacks a year anymore. And that's the problem with Trey Hendrickson to me, is because you're paying him at the age of 32 or 33. The problem with him is you're now paying him for what he's done in the past as opposed to what you think he's going to do, which
Production
that's the way the NFL
versus
works.
projection.
Yeah, that's the way the NFL works. That's always how it's going to work. But are you going to be the team that's baited into giving a guy $30 million a year because of what he did 2-3 years ago? I'm not. If I'm the Bears, I'm looking for a solution elsewhere. I think there are some subtle solutions in the free agency, but I think maybe even bringing Khalil Mack back here for a guy who said he would take a pay cut for the Bears to come back to Chicago. That's something certainly I would consider. Do I like Trey Hendrickson a lot? Yeah. Would I love him on the Bears? Yes. I just not for $30 million a year. Not to mention if people keep talking about Trey Hendrickson here, but nobody ever offers a solution to where this money is coming from. The Bears are right now $7 million over the cap if you consider the rookie class. So where are you getting 30? Now you'd have to be $40 million because you're already $7 million over. And then you have to have room during the season. You have to have 10, 12, $14 million to play with in case of injuries. You need to trade for somebody, a situation pops up. Sean says Raiders have interest in Edmunds reported today. Yeah, Sean, it was they reported today. It was the Giants, Raiders, and Titans all have called and inquired about the availability of one Tremaine Edmunds. So I'm hoping the Bears can at least get a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick back.
Yeah, Dwayne. I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby.
Yeah, Vernon, Dwayne says he believes Trey. I'm assuming he's talking about Hendrickson is injury prone. Vernon, True Pilgrim says we're not going to give up DJ in a first for a 29-year-old Crosby coming off an injury. Not going to happen. I don't know, True Pilgrim. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think DJ in a first is
they
something
got to
the
find
Bears
a
are
pass
already
rush.
considering. They would obviously ask for more back than Maxx Crosby, right, Kyle? You're not just getting the player. You're going to want some draft capital as well in return from the Raiders.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe like a 7th round pick. It's not going to be anything.
I do think. I think what Barnwell reported was Crosby in a 5th for DJ in a 1st, and I don't. It sounds like the Bears are treating DJ with a little more value than that. I think the Bears would probably ask for Crosby in a 3rd round pick for DJ in a 1st, because the reality is DJ Moore is probably equivalent to like a 2nd round pick in regards to his market value. He's a good player. I'm not taking anything away from DJ Moore. He didn't have the numbers, the production that you could probably just try to.
Well, he did 2 years ago. He just didn't, or 3 years ago. He just didn't do it last year. I mean, we've seen him do it. We've seen him
who's getting a little older himself. I don't know that that's a good sign that his best seasons were multiple seasons ago.
I mean, if I had it my way, the Bears would find a way to get Maxx Crosby and keep DJ Moore, but we know that that's not possible and it's not going to happen. But real quick, Bears Scapo 23. I don't know if I've ever seen him in here before. He says, what do you all think about Shamar Turner? I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. I think that Shamar Turner looked good in his limited time on the Bears, and I think they're still trying to figure out. I think Dennis Allen's trying to figure out if he likes him more on the inside or the outside. They're trying to figure out if they like him more as the tackle position or the end.
That's for you, man. Thanks for joining the show. Hit that like, subscribe.
I saw flashes of a very good player. I think Dennis Allen knew what he was looking at when he saw Shamar Turner in the draft. And I think there's a reason he drafted him. And I think he's going to play a big role for the Chicago Bears next season if he can stay healthy. The only problem with your question, Bears Scapo, is it's just I don't know if there's enough on tape to really give a true fair evaluation of this kid. I think he's just dealt with too many injuries in the last 3 years of his college and NFL career to really determine what kind of player he's going to be.
Let me get a piece of that. Capo, I thought the Shamar Turner pick, that was my favorite defensive pick in last year's draft. Hippolyte was obviously something we all kind of pondered. Zay Frazier had whatever it was that occurred. I don't think anybody even fucking knows, but I really liked Shamar Turner. I thought he played edge for a year before he was moved to tackle and the collegiate level. I think this is a guy that can be played inside and out. He was projected, what was it, Kyle? He was taken outside the top 50, but if he had not suffered the injury that he did, the foot surgery he had in college,
they're saying late 1st round.
He was he was projected by almost every major measure and source to be a top 50 pick. in that last year's class. So I think there's a lot there. I think he looked. I mean, the guy has just a motor and he's got an attitude, and I like that in itself. I think Dennis Allen had to calm him down a few times in practice, which was reported. They almost said even they took him off the field because he was getting a little too aggressive with the guy across from him, and he was playing a little bit after the whistle. I think those guys can serve a good purpose in the NFL. I like Shamar Turner. The injury is obviously a concern, but I believe if the guy is able to stay healthy and stay on the field, he's going to be a name that you're hearing a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brandon. I think the future is bright for that kid. James Christo says we only have 3 starters in the defense. I'm assuming he's talking about tackles for next season. I think the first 3 rounds must go on defense, or maybe he's talking about the entire defense. I think there's a little bit more than 3 starters if you're talking about the entire defense. But yeah, James, I expect it to be a very defensive-heavy draft. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bears decide to address the left tackle position once and for all and just get it out of the way and get it finished in the first round, and then they go defense. But I do expect most of our off-season resources to be allocated towards the defensive side of the football, and I think that's only fair to Dennis Allen if you expect him to make this a top 15 unit in the NFL next season. Lauren, we appreciate you, man. But he says he's subscribing now because he also agrees that the Bears should draft a left tackle. I agree. Lauren, like Vernon's heard me say this on the podcast a million times. You got to protect your quarterback. I know that people want to fix this defense immediately. I know the Bears want a Super Bowl, but if you're not going to win a Super Bowl if Caleb Williams is out with torn ACL because you can't protect his blind side, I think that I know we want defense. I know the whole offseason is going to be focused on the defense, but I think the left tackle position should be very high on their list of priorities.
Well, Lauren, this is something that I've said for a couple of weeks here now. I would imagine that Ben Johnson is encouraging Ryan Poles to do as much work on the defensive side of the football.
Me too, James. I make that trade too. I think everybody does.
Do as much work on the defensive side of the football as he can prior to the draft so that Ben Johnson has the flexibility to take whoever it is he wants with that 25th pick, especially given the board that Ben Johnson's going to have after they do these top 30 visits and they see the character these guys have. Ben Johnson wants himself a left tackle. The Bears want a left tackle. Theo Bennett was a good signing. I think they re-signed him to be a swing tackle. He's not your starter. If he's the guy who's out there when week 1, Caleb's in trouble, I think that's a position that you certainly want to feel is solidified. And I don't know that the Bears look at Trip Hill like there's nothing set in stone there.
Burn, he might never play football again. A 38% return rate from a ruptured patellar. That's not good.
And if a guy comes in, and plays well enough, let's say that Trip Hill comes in the latter half of the season and you want him to play in the playoffs, that means the guy who was starting left tackle was playing well enough to get you there. I don't see why you take that guy off the field. So you want to draft somebody who's going to make a difference. You don't want to bridge left tackle, right, Kyle? I mean, that's something I'm sure you would preach. You don't want to sign a fucking nobody at left tackle to get you to Trip Hill.
Well, and another thing you need to consider when you're talking about all these trade scenarios and all this, you have to consider what's available. I mean, guys, it might not be if the draft is much deeper at wide receiver, and there's not a lot of defensive ends that you think are out there are going to be available to you at 25. That are going to be like world beaters.
Yeah, Sean, we talked about Tremaine Edmunds for Crosby.
Yeah, no, Brennan, what he's saying is he's referring to the fact that the Raiders are interested in Edmunds because now he's saying you could package DJ Moore and Edmunds because obviously the Raiders are showing. Sean, if they can find a way to do that, if they can find a way to get any value to trade Edmunds at all, I'd be happy. But I just don't think he's as valuable as some people think. Brennan, what I was saying earlier is, if you think the draft is much deeper at wide receiver and you're not going to have a chance to have one of the stud defensive ends at 25, then you're probably better off trading DJ Moore for Crosby and then drafting a receiver, right? Because apparently this draft is going to be one of the deepest.
We took Omar Cooper in the second round in our offseason simulator, and I was pretty content.
We took Luther Burden in the second round last year, and he might be the best receiver on the Bears. So maybe you can get another.
That kid from Indiana, Cooper, is projected to fall all the way to the second round. I wouldn't mind if the Bears
if you get a guy in the second round
on the board at least.
You get a guy in the second round who's as good as Luther Burden, and now your 2 best receivers are Luther Burden and whoever you draft this year. Then would you be upset if DJ Moore's gone for Maxx Crosby? Probably not.
And then you've got some flexibility with Rome Odunze. If you draft Omar Cooper and Luther Burden is there, and you got Jade Walker, who's still here for another year. Rome might be somebody the Bears consider, because if you get a receiver who can play some quality football and you think that you've got 2 starters that are now on a sophomore and rookie contracts, and Rome was a top 10 pick just a couple of years ago, and the trade deadline approaches halfway through the season, I think, Kyle, you're right. Poles wants room. He wants some wiggle room. In the middle of the season, he wants some money. He probably wants Jervon Dexter's a guy. Let's say you draft some defensive linemen, and Jervon Dexter's a guy that at the trade deadline you can waver over people's head a little bit. I mean, it never hurts to have. It never hurts to
J2K.
have too much, guys. What's up, J2K? What's going on? Thanks for joining us, brother. Kyle, I do want to. We've talked about this, the potential of who the Bears draft in the first round. We talked about the defensive line a whole lot. There's a player that is becoming the hot commodity in the NFL, guys, just given circumstance that the offseason always requires quarterbacks get moved around. Teams want bridge quarterbacks. Teams want quarterbacks they can give an opportunity to. And the Bears, I think,
Yeah, we know, James.
biggest
We know that
asset,
the injury is concerning.
I think
We've
the
talked
Bears'
about
greatest asset right now, as far as I'm reading, what pulls at this combine is Tyson Bagent. And I think the Bears were not wrong at all. Me and Dustin talked about this on Thursday night because the Bears aren't wrong for setting a market value at second round pick. Because the reality is, if you're trading Tyson Bagent to any team that needs him, they need him to start. You do not trade a player from your roster to be the starter on somebody else's for shit. Right, Kyle?
especially when he's only making $4 million a year, Brandon. Everybody wants that contract. I mean,
Yeah, but right. Think about Kyler Murray's money and then flipping it to Tyson Bagent. What you're able to what that presents the Cardinals, the opportunity that gives them to spend money on their future.
the transition to franchise tag quarterbacks this year is $47 million. If you could find a
And
way to
Malik
get
Willis is projected like 25, and he
30, he's asking for 30. His
yeah,
camp's
that's
asking for
crazy.
30. If
That's
you could bring
crazy.
a quarterback here who looks capable, he went 2-2 his first 4 games in the NFL under a pretty poor coaching staff, pretty poor offensive line, and pretty poor weapons, and you think you can get him to come to you, like say the Cardinals think you can win 10 games there for $4 million a year, I think that's your best option available. I mean, I think that I would be happy to give up a second round pick if I think there's going to be, if you have, first of all, Brent, he's under contract for 2 years. You're going to pay him $8 million to start for 2 seasons. You still don't know his ceiling. People still don't know what Tyson Bagent could do. I'm not saying that he's going to win a Super Bowl or anything, but the guy could certainly win games. He's proved it. He did it in the NFL already in his rookie season, coming out of Division II college. He went 2-2. If you ask me, people can call me biased. People can call me. Oh yeah, he looks super poised with the quarter in the pocket for such a young kid. He looked great in the preseason. You can only play what they put, the competition they put in front of you.
With the offensive line they put in front of you.
Call me biased.
Run out, but he was making fucking plays.
Call me biased all you want, Brennan. I think Tyson Bagent might be the best option available at quarterback if teams are looking for somebody to just kind of fill a gap here. Brennan Scroll says edge rushers have no longer primes than wide receivers. DJ will be washed up in 2 years. Crosby might have another 5 years of game wrecking left. It's ultimately going to come. I'm not a GM. It's ultimately going to come down to Ryan Poles. There's multiple
the prime of a defensive end in our chat a couple weeks ago. It was like 26 or 24 to 28.
No, I think the defensive ends or defensive tackles or defensive linemen, I think is 26 to 30. I think is when they say.
Yeah, something like that. It was the late 20s. The bulk of it was your late 20s. I don't know. What is Crosby? 27.
I think he's going to be 29 to start next season. True Program agrees with you, Brendan. He says there are some great wide receivers in this draft. I haven't looked into much of them, guys, but if the Bears do decide,
Trey Lance's brother, he's that kid. The size and combine numbers, that kid's about to climb up some draft boards. There's no doubt about that. He blew the combine away.
I'll tell you this: if the Bears do decide to move on from DJ Moore, they need to draft a receiver. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me because they have all the faith in the world in Rome Odunze. But even if you do have all the faith in the world in Rome Odunze, what if he gets hurt? Yeah, now you're down to Johnny Walker and Luther Burden. Yeah, I mean, I think you need at least 3 really good receivers on your team if you want to talk about being a top 5 offense. Now, listen, obviously, if they didn't have DJ Moore and they ride with Johnny Walker, Rome Odunze and Luther Burden, they'd still be damn good offense. But one of those guys gets injured, especially long term. I don't see a way that the Bears are scoring 33 points a game like they were in Detroit.
The Bears won't have.
You need talent. You got to have talent. Romy says he does not believe Bagent will get traded. Brennan James Crystal says,
Romy, hold on. Well, if the Bears were offered,
just ask him why.
Well, Romy, this is a guy who's a backup on your. I like Tyson Bagent.
Yes, James, I would.
He's not going to play football if things go well. Caleb's your starting quarterback. That's the way you want it to remain. If you can flip Tyson Bagent for a second round pick who could potentially start on your roster at some other position that makes an impact over the course of your 2026 NFL season, if you get a defensive tackle because you traded Tyson Bagent, a guy who would have otherwise been sitting on your bench. And listen, I forgot to say this on Thursday's show, and I'm sure Kyle could probably advocate for this too. Bagent deserves a shot at some point Aren't
Yeah,
you
you owe it to
aren't you hoping
him.
for the kid?
You owe it to him. Yeah, and Brennan, you don't have to make that argument because Ben Johnson said it in his presser. He said, "Listen, guys, it's not every day you get offered a chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's 32 teams. There's 20,000 kids in the world who want to play quarterback in the NFL. If the opportunity comes up, we certainly owe it to Tyson to give him that
I
opportunity."
like Tyson Bagent. He
I
works
think
his
the only way
ass
they
off.
wouldn't is if it's like a 6th or 7th round pick. I think the Bears would trade Tyson Bagent for a 4th because I think they feel like they owe it to him to give him a chance to start in the NFL. Brennan James says, if Sonny Styles falls out of the top 10, would you guys consider a trade up and go get him?
I
Absolutely.
would trade
I would.
myself
I would.
for
I
Sonny
would.
Styles.
I would trade. I would trade a lot to go get Sonny Styles if he's still available in the top 15. First of all, if you're not trading in the top 10, it's not going to cost you as much. Second of all, James, I think this is a guy that changes the dynamic of your entire defense. I think this is this cornerstone of your
I would
defense
trade
for the next
Soldier
10,
Field
12,
for Sonny
14 years.
Styles.
If Sonny Styles, if there's any way, shape, or form that the Bears can somehow get their hands on him, I would. You will never hear me complain about trading draft capital away for a guy who might be the best defensive player in the NFL come 2 or 3 years from now. I love Sonny Styles. Sean's the one who got me to start watching his tape to begin with. Sean loved him. He was
Omar
Sean's
Cooper
favorite.
would be a steal.
Sean's favorite player in the draft. The more I watch of Sonny Styles, especially after the combine, and you guys know I'm not a huge combine guy, but the more I watch of him, the more I just don't see how if the option is there to go get him, I don't see how that could be a negative in any way, shape, or form, even if it means you have to trade away your first round pick this year and your first round pick next year. I think he's the guy who's kind of on that Crosby level, that Micah Parsons level. He's going to be one of those types of guys, but you're getting him on a rookie deal and you're going to have him for 5 years guaranteed.
So imagine, okay,
Yeah, I'm trading for Sonny Styles, dude.
Let's humor this. Imagine you trade Tyson Bagent for a team that is willing to give a second round pick because, like I said, guys, he's a starting quarterback. Their teams are going to be desperate for this thing. It always. This is how it's dictated. It says you're a victim of circumstance. You trade Tyson Bagent for a second round pick and you draft Omar Cooper. Are you guys going to be disappointed that Tyson Bagent is not the backup? And by the way, I said this on Thursday show, and I think it's important. We have never seen Ben Johnson draft a quarterback. Nobody in the NFL knows what kind of quarterback Ben Johnson would target in a draft. I would love to see what the name is on it. I want to know who Ben Johnson will. I want to know if we lost Tyson Bagent as our backup quarterback, who Ben Johnson thinks would serve a good. Like, who's good to plug into this system, this offense we run here if Caleb were to be injured. I want to know the name on that kid. I want to know what that kid's like. I want to know how he
Well,
plays.
and Burden, if you decide to trade Tyson Bagent to get a second round pick or a third round pick, I would take a third round pick for Bagent. If you decided to trade Tyson Bagent for a third round pick, there are guys who are serviceable. You can go get a Case Keenum who can win 2 games. Listen,
You
if
can
you
get a
lose,
quarterback with your
if
third
you
round
lose,
pick, if that's what you so choose.
if you lose Caleb Williams for the rest of the season, you're not winning a Super Bowl. Sorry, guys, it's just not going to happen. If Tyson Bagent is your starter for the rest of the season, you're not going to win a Super Bowl.
And,
So
and his arm lacks a lot.
either
We
way,
have to say that.
and I'm not. That doesn't mean that I don't like Tyson Bagent, but either way, the only way the Bears win a Super Bowl is if Caleb Williams only misses a small stint of the season. So if you can get a Case Keenum here who can go 2-2 in 4 games, and then you can also get a second or third round pick for Tyson Bagent, I'm all for it. Now, Brennan Romy says he's not trading him because there's no way in hell the Bears are getting a second round pick. Yeah, Romy, I'm not saying they're going to.
I think the quarterback position dictates that, man.
And I'm not, Brennan, we're not saying
there's
they're going
desperate. If listen, Malik Willis is getting paid $30 million.
All right, give me a second. The reason we're talking about this, Romy, is because the news came out today that there are numerous teams interested in Tyson Bagent who have contacted the Bears already, including the Cardinals and the Falcons, and the Bears are asking for a second round pick.
That's what they set the value.
That's why we're setting the standard, because that's what the Bears are asking for. That doesn't mean that I'm saying the Bears are going to get a second round pick, but if the Falcons, if Ian Cunningham calls and was like, "Hey, I was on the Bears, I watched that kid, I know how good he is, I think he's better than people think, I'll give you guys a second round pick," hell yes. Yes, sign me up. Where do I sign? Tyson
goes. Yeah, Dustin did have a lot to say about the combine being just a dick flop. But listen,
James, I agree with you, man. He might be the next Brian Urlacher. Sonny Styles is a freak of nature. He's absolutely a freak of nature, man. This is the one guy in the draft. Him or Jeremiah Love are the 2 guys in the draft that if the Bears announced that they were trading up in the first round to go get him, I'm not going to be upset about it in any way, shape, or form. But I would like to see DeAndre Swift get traded if they decided to trade for Jeremiah Love. But I wouldn't be upset at all if the Bears traded up for Jeremiah Love, because I think he's the next Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley type player. I think that's what he is.
Ryan Poles knows what he's doing, guys, and he did that intentionally because the position that teams are most desperate for in the offseason, we're talking about Malik Willis getting $30 million. Would you rather pay Malik Willis $30 million or trade your second round pick for Tyson Bagent at the chance that maybe he's a good quarterback, especially after the season he spent under Ben Johnson, where he looked pretty fucking in command to me during that preseason, and he played behind a shit line. This is what I said to you guys earlier. The kid can process quickly. He works very hard in the offseason. He works hard to be the best player that he can be. He's prepared when if Caleb were to come off the field, Tyson's prepared. And Ben Johnson's probably made this kid the best player he can be already. I believe
It's all
that. So
about balance, Bernard. It's all about balance. If you're willing to go trade a second round pick for a guy like Tyson Bagent and pay him $4 million instead of paying Malik Willis $30 million, you now have $26 million of cap that you could put to the player you were going to draft in the second round in free agency. You can go sign a corner for $26 million in free agency that you were going to draft second corner in the second round. I don't see any way, shape, or form
and he
on
has
how
starting
adding a
experience
quarterback,
too. I want to add
adding,
that. He's
adding a
started in the
quarterback,
NFL.
adding a quarterback who's learned under Ben Johnson all season and
Who started in the NFL
and going to this offseason for $4 million a year. I mean, I think that's the best case scenario for these teams looking for a quarterback. Brendan Scroll says, I'm not falling for the Sonny Styles combine hype. No one was mentioning his name 2 months ago. Scrolls.
Watch his
Sean
tape.
Lugo was mentioning his name the day the season ended. The day the NFL season ended, he started talking about Sonny Styles.
The day the college season ended.
Not to mention, man,
about Sonny Styles.
Scrolls, if you don't believe us, if you don't believe the combine, if you think that's like the underwear
watch the
Olympics, like
tape,
everybody
man.
else says, go watch the tape, man. Vernon, a new joiner, somebody I haven't seen before, Mind of Murdoch. Apologize if you've been here before, man. I don't recognize the name. He says, hey, fellas, how about Jacob Rodriguez for the linebacker in the second round? Yeah, we talked about it earlier on the show, man. I would absolutely love Jacob Rodriguez.
This is for you, my man.
If they could find a way to get him in the second round, I'm all for Jacob Rodriguez, but Sonny Styles is a better player and is going to be a better NFL player for sure.
Sonny Styles is doing things that
Scrolls.
we've never seen.
I agree with you. We just talked about it. Like, I understand Case Keenum's a free agent, but you could still go sign him. Like, he's a free agent. I don't understand. He's not under contract with Bears anymore, but you could still go get Case Keenum, and I think he can win games for this team.
Is nobody else excited to see, even if it was an undrafted free
Brennan,
agent, guys?
Brennan, you want to
Our
see
head coach is the quarterback whisperer, the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVays of the league, guys. Would you not be intrigued by knowing who Ben Johnson might target at that position and a young player in the draft, and a 7th round pick, a 6th round pick? I would love to see, if they traded Tyson Bagent, who Ben Johnson believes could be a better fit than Tyson Bagent on this football team, because Tyson Bagent's arm lacks a lot. There's a lot to be desired there. He can't throw the ball 60 yards.
You said earlier you'd like to see who Ben Johnson would pick out of the litter. He picked Case Keenum. That's who he picked. He brought Case Keenum here when he became hired as Bears head coach.
For a mentor role. But
sure, but he played the preseason. He was their number 2 in the preseason. James Crisco says Tyson Bagent for a 3rd round to draft a QB with that pick. That doesn't sound like very smart to me, especially with Ben Johnson says he loves Bagent.
I think we're doing the love thing. I think we're falling in love with Tyson Bagent. I think if you can get a high round pick for Tyson Bagent, who's going to sit on your bench, he's not a player who you want to play, right, Kyle? We don't want Tyson Bagent to ever play a snap on the Chicago Bears, and you can flip it into a player who starts on your roster. There is no other argument to be made here, right? Am I wrong? I mean, on
top of that, guys,
completely asinine.
On top of that, everybody in the chat keeps saying Ben Johnson loves him. Ben Johnson loves him. Ben Johnson loves him. Yeah, guys, part of that love is Ben Johnson said in his presser. We heard it. We heard it in the presser. He said, if we get a good offer for Tyson Bagent and he has a chance to start in the NFL, something that will only happen once in a lifetime once you make it to the NFL as a Division II quarterback, then we owe it to him to give him that chance to start. So whether we like it or not, whether we think it should happen or not, Ben Johnson has said himself, if we owe it to Tyson Bagent for what he's done here and how much professional he's been and how great he's been, to give him a chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I'm telling you guys right now, if it's a 3rd round pick or higher offered to the Bears, Tyson Bagent is not going to be on the Bears next season. I can almost guarantee that. James Christo says, Bagent has played 4 games in the NFL and has a 2-2 record with below average offense. Yeah, I think he's better than people give him credit for, and I think that's why some of these teams are so interested. Dante Purify says, what's up, Brandon? What's up, twins? How you doing, Dante? Thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate you. Sean Lugo says, Sonny Styles broke the combine. Yeah, and it's not just the combine. Go watch the tape. Go watch the tape, guys. Prophet says, bear down, fam. Love you, Prophet. Thanks for being here, man. Mind of Murdoch says, not Ben's first year to go for QB in this draft. Well, I think they've already met with 3 QBs, Murdoch. So it sounds like the Bears are certainly showing interest in either drafting a QB or picking one up after the draft and free agency, an undrafted free agent. So
What's up, Dante?
I think the Bears are considering that Tyson Bagent may not be here because I think they
Well, and I
visited
think
what,
if you
three
set a market
quarterbacks now?
value,
Three
you're willing
quarterbacks.
to trade them. If you've said to teams, "This is what I want," that means you're willing to move. And I don't see how retaining a backup quarterback versus getting a pick who might turn into potential starting player on your roster. Those in the chat who disagree with this, please let me know. Like, if you can take your backup player at any position and flip it into a pick that might eventually be a starting player on your roster, I don't see how you don't fucking roll with that.
Oh yeah, there's really no
That's
quantity.
irresponsible.
Well, there's no way to quantify which is more important, a starting corner or a backup quarterback, because obviously the backup
Yeah, there
quarterback is
is.
much more
Starting
important.
corner's a starter.
Yeah, but I mean, a quarterback's the most important position in football, so you have to have a damn good backup, right? Because you can replace a corner. It's much tougher to.
Nobody has a damn good backup. Nobody in the
Bears
NFL has a
do.
damn good
The
backup.
Bears, Jacoby Brissett's a good backup, man.
And I don't know that,
Murdoch.
guys. What if Tyson Bagent becomes the starter of whatever team it is he's traded to, and he falls flat on his fucking face?
Well, that
We got a second round pick. We got a second round pick for a guy who didn't even fucking make it in the NFL. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know if we can. Vernon, there's a lot of people agreeing with you here, but Murdoch says next year has QB worth taking, not this year, to be honest. Well, Murdoch, if you get a chance, man, do me a favor. Go check out Cole Payton and tell me what you think of the tape, man, because that's one of the guys the Bears have shown interest in, and I think
they visited with him.
I think he looks pretty. I think he looks damn good, man. I think
he's got a hell of a deep ball, which is something, guys. Another thing that I have to say, me and Kyle talked about it. This kid's poised when he played behind the bad offensive
James,
line.
you wouldn't draft QB. You would draft a different position, man. We weren't saying draft.
Well,
QB.
no, I said if they wanted to take the pick they acquired from Tyson Bagent and draft a quarterback with a real arm, they could do that, because
I wouldn't.
The reality is, guys, Tyson Bagent needed Nathan Peterman to throw a Hail Mary for him. That's the reason that teams would be hesitant to trade a second round pick for the guys. His arm is kind of Division II football-y.
You guys, no matter what happens with Tyson Bagent, I don't think the Bears are drafting a quarterback in the first 3 or 4 rounds. I think they're going to focus on this defense.
No, it'd be stupid to do so. But I just don't see how you can make an argument that trading a backup player for a potential starter, there's no way to make that argument.
Bernard, Steve Rogers, what's up, Steve? How you doing, brother? He says, I'd be fine with third round pick. Second most likely won't happen. Yeah, Steve, there's a very good chance that when the team started inquiring about Tyson Bagent and his availability, that the Bears said second, so that maybe the teams could meet him in the middle somewhere. Like if these teams are offering a fourth for Tyson Bagent and the Bears say, hey, well, we want a second. Maybe the Bears said we want a second, knowing that team will ultimately settle on a third round pick. I mean, this is how the negotiating works.
Holes is being smart. He's and listen, man. Like I said, Kyle, if you traded Tyson Bagent and that turned into Omar Cooper, would you miss Tyson Bagent?
No. I mean, it depends. If had Caleb Williams missed 8 weeks of the season and our backup quarterback sucked and we went 0-8, then yeah, I'd miss.
What if our backup quarterback sucked and Tyson Bagent sucked wherever he went?
Yeah, there's too many what ifs now, right? Bernard, James Christos says
I have faith that Ben Johnson will make whatever backup quarterback's on this team
like
the best backup quarterback that quarterback can be. Ben Johnson made Tyson Bagent better than he was a year ago.
Sure. But let me put on the record that I like Tyson Bagent a lot. James Christos says, I can watch Styles tape every day and I still want to watch it again. I agree with you, James. I can't get enough of it, man. The guy is absolutely a freak of nature. He's going to be, there's a lot of guys, very rarely will you guys hear me say on this podcast, I guarantee this guy's going to be amazing. I guarantee this guy's going to suck. I'm usually kind of the voice of reason. I'm kind of the guy then in the middle when other people in the chat or people on the podcast are talking about people they like in the draft. I can guarantee you Sonny Styles is going to be a top 5 player in this draft. I can absolutely guarantee it. And we could talk again at this point next year and we can have a conversation about how we felt his rookie season went. But I promise you, I want to be happy in that conversation. But Mind Murdoch says next year's draft has crazy QB talent. No point reaching this year.
I don't want him reaching on a
I agree with you, Murdoch. I agree with you for sure that next year's draft, when it comes to quarterback, is much better than this year's.
Do you guys think it's possible?
This is one of the worst quarterback drafts I've seen in a long time. I'm not a big fan of Fernando Montoya.
That Ben Johnson can pick an undrafted free agent quarterback that Ben Johnson, who fits Ben Johnson's mold, that he could develop.
Read the chat, bro. Read the chat.
Can Prophet says, can Ben Johnson find a UDF? They can make a good. Yeah,
Says
right.
Ben can. He
Right.
says Ben
This
can
is
find that.
this is his knack. It's his forte. This is what the no pun intended. This is what this guy does. So Ben Johnson sees a guy that isn't projected to be drafted and thinks if we can trade, if we can move Bagent, get a second round pick, draft a starter on our defense, and I can go get you a fucking guy that can beat Tyson Bagent and maybe even more. You should trust Ben Johnson's going to do that, especially since as good as Bagent is, guys, and as good as he's played here, he is, Kyle, is there some things to be desired when it comes to the arm on this kid? He's missing some things.
Well, dude, Brendan, if he wasn't, he'd be starting. If he wasn't missing some things, he would have. The Bears would have been like, "Hey,
Well,
we got Tyson
he
Bagent.
would
We
have,
don't
Kyle,
need
he would
Caleb
have been a
Williams." If he was
Division
Tom
One.
Brady,
He
you would have drafted Caleb
he
Williams.
would have been a Division One football player if the guy could throw the ball 55 yards
sure,
in the air.
absolutely.
But he can't.
Brendan, I like this chat right here. This is, I think, what we've kind of all been saying, right? Early third or second for Bagent is good value, and you sign a vet QB for backup. If we draft a backup QB, it would be late rounds, 5 to 7. I agree with you.
Or even
100%.
undrafted.
Or
Bears.
yeah, even
Bears
undrafted
it can
free
be
agent.
undrafted. It can be a guy that Ben Johnson just likes and thinks that he fits the mold.
Brendan, mind of Murdoch's response to Cole Payton is 6'3". Payton 6'3" is taller than Caleb, but we could use that pick elsewhere with this heavy defense draft. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Murdoch, what if Payton's drafted in the 6th round? Don't you think that would be worth the value of a second or of a backup quarterback? I do. I think if you think that he's a damn good quarterback and he could be a potential starter and he's one of the best 32 in the NFL, as Ben calls it, then I would be fine with the Bears drafting him in the 6th round. James Christer says, when is the NFL going to give us an answer for those compensatory picks? It sounds to me, James, like nothing's going to happen. The Bears did officially file a complaint. There's no such thing as an appeal in the situation. Yeah, it's basically a complaint. And the NFL, from what I understand, has basically come back and said, we made our decision, move on.
It said, what I last read said
maybe
grim for the Bears.
Yeah, maybe something will come of it, but right now, from my understanding, nothing.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, Murdoch, we're definitely not disagreeing with you. Next year's quarterback class is definitely way better. Romy says Ben's system will be very hard to master as a rookie QB. That's end of the draft or undrafted. Yeah, for a quarterback who's drafted late, probably going to take at least a year for him to really understand this offense. Maybe not. Maybe 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks, or at least enough to run the offense. Kind of, what do they call it? Manage the offense and win a game or two.
Well, and then I want to remind, guys, I understand. We like Bagent. You don't want this kid to play ever. You never want Tyson Bagent to take a snap on the Chicago Bears football field, because that means your future franchise elite quarterback, possibly generational, is not on the field. That's not what we're hoping for as Bears fans. I hope that Tyson Bagent holds that clipboard for the rest of his fucking career if he remains in Chicago. So as Kyle said, I would imagine that Ben Johnson wants to provide this kid an opportunity to be a starting quarterback somewhere, and it's not going to be here in Chicago. You're burning him too. You're burning the kid.
Right. Yeah, we could probably.
When his contract ends, do you think Bagent sticks around, Kyle? If his contract ends?
I want to make this the Bagent show. No, definitely not. I think he wants a chance to start in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, the Bears are ultimately going to decide what they think the value of Tyson Bagent is. But I do think the fact that they believe he deserves a chance to start in the NFL for what he's done in Chicago, for the work he's put in, I think that is going to sway their decision, and they would be willing to take a third to give him a chance to start in the NFL.
Right, and a lot of guys appreciate that Poles does right by players. Right, we've heard that. Oh, you traded Justin Fields.
So does Ben Johnson. So does Ben
Johnson. Where he wanted to go. Then do right by Tyson Bagent if he's given an opportunity to start in the NFL. Do right by
Steve Rogers says, I can't believe with all the holes on this roster, you guys keep bringing up drafting wide receiver in the 2nd round. Listen, Steve, I'm not saying you have to. What I'm saying is if you trade DJ Moore, you're now was a position that was once the position of strength. You're now pretty thin. I mean, we don't know enough about Jade Walker, and Rome Odunze certainly hasn't lived up to the number 9 pick in the draft hype. All I'm saying is if you do trade DJ Moore as a security blanket, if you think the wide receiver draft class in 2026 is one of the best of all time, is what we keep hearing. This is like one of the best, deepest wide receiver draft classes in a long time. I would consider drafting one over signing like Zacchaeus in free agency, because I think there's a good chance that if you draft a receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round, he could be much better than Zacchaeus, and you're really not missing a beat on offense. That's all I'm saying is if you trade DJ Moore,
and Steve,
I would address that hole in the draft.
You have to embrace, if you move on from DJ Moore, let's say that hypothetically that you do that, you don't have to do it in the 2nd round, but you got to get a receiver, because the 2 guys that started for you last year, outside of DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Luther Burden, both suffered injuries. This is probably the most
What
injured
up,
position
Adam?
in the NFL. You've got to have a backup plan, and I wouldn't mind if it's a guy who in a strong class who falls somewhere high in the pack. I think if you drafted Omar Cooper in the second and you were able to move on from DJ Moore and drafted Omar Cooper in the second, you might be getting a potential starter. And then Rome Odunze can be whatever the hell you want him to be. If you want to move on from Rome Odunze, who was a top 10 pick 2 years ago, there's probably a lot of teams that are willing to give a lot up for that guy. And he would have been your number one receiver. He would have had 1,000 yards this year. Rome Odunze's draft value or trade value is pretty high, regardless of the drops. I still think this is a kid that a lot of teams would be interested in. But I just think, listen, and I'm with you here. It's because my big thing, Kyle, is we know Colston Loveland's the best pass catcher on this football team. That's the guy who I'm focused around. That's the guy I'm designing my offense around when it comes to this skill position. Colston Loveland's the best pass catcher on this football team. So if you believe that you go into the season with Rome and Luther and you get rid of Moore and Jade Walker's your third guy and Colston and Cole are enough, I'm fine with that too. I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I'm not. If the Bears don't draft a wide receiver, I'm not going to make a big deal
tears
about
his
it.
ACL, then they're in trouble. Now you're talking about a very scarce situation for Caleb Williams. Now you're talking about you've now taken away two of his weapons, DJ Moore and somebody who gets injured, like say Rome Odunze tears his ACL. Now you're talking about you're relying on guys like Luther Burden, Jade Walker, and Colston Loveland, guys who all three I think I like what I saw, but we know nothing about. At this point, we just don't know enough about them. Now listen, I think there's a good chance Colston Loveland becomes the best tight end in the NFL, but we said that about Sam Laporta, and it didn't work out that way. I think there's a good chance Luther Burden becomes the number one receiver on the Bears, but maybe he has attitude issues or off the field issues, or I think there's a good chance
No, he
Rome
doesn't have
Odunze.
that. But he's the
Maybe
guy who
maybe
seems like
there's
he
a
might be
chance that
injured.
Rome Odunze is a really good number two, but he tears his ACL. All I'm saying is if you trade DJ Moore, I don't think that Caleb Williams is a finished product. I think there's still some developing to do, at least for the first 8 to 10 weeks next season. So you better make sure there's a plethora of damn good weapons on the field with him, because at some point quarterbacks who are being in their development stages will start using things as excuses. Well, I didn't have a left tackle. I didn't have three good receivers. I didn't have, and all I'm saying is if you're the
Plus,
Bears, I'd eliminate as many of those excuses as you possibly can, because I believe Caleb Williams still has a lot of learning to do. Real quick,
we like to.
Romy
We
says
try to.
Rooney Rule is an absolute joke. I agree with you 100%.
We try to stay
So
consistent
does
on
running back.
this. We try to stay consistent on this show, Kyle, and it's best player available, right? If in the second round Omar Cooper is sitting there when you're drafting, I mean, you're going best player. You're going best player available, right? If the best player available in the second round is a wide receiver, are you going to be upset if that's what Ben Johnson decides to do?
No, I think he thinks that outscoring the other team is more important than stopping them from scoring. And I think you can always win games by outscoring the other team, but you can't win games if you don't score. So if Ben Johnson's like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice a couple draft picks selections in this draft for offense, instead of drafting all defense, just to make this offense the most prolific offense in the NFL and score 33 points a game like I was in Detroit my last year there, the number one offense in the NFL, I am all for it. Now, listen, I'm not saying totally ignore the defense like the Bengals did where you're giving up 41 points a game and you don't have a single player on the team that can tackle. All I'm saying is this day and age in the NFL right now, and I know you guys can talk about the playoffs and Super Bowl, but getting to the playoffs, offense is more important than defense. When you get to the playoffs and it's cold,
for the devil even
defense
more
is probably more important than offense.
They probably didn't need to take Luther Burden when they had Rome Odunze and DJ
Well, they didn't
Moore.
need to take Colston Loveland.
Are you upset that they did? Are you upset that Luther Burden's on this football team? Like they did this already with a second round pick a year ago, and I don't regret it one bit. I don't think they do.
First round pick. Cole Kmet could have had a damn good year last year if Colston Loveland was drafted. I'm glad they drafted Colston Loveland, but I guarantee if they didn't, Cole Kmet would have been an 800-yard, 900-yard receiver with 8 or 9 touchdowns. But James Christo says, if I have to pick between Crosby trade, Hendrickson money, or Mack deal, I pick Mack all day. I agree with you, man. I've talked about that numerous times on the show. If you're talking about just a bridge, if you're talking about a bridge defensive end, just a guy to get you through one more year till you can go get your stud, go draft your stud, the guy you want, you think is going to change the entire outcome of your defense. I am all for bringing Khalil Mack here, especially since Khalil Mack came out on social media and said, I love Chicago so much, I would be willing to take a pay cut to play in Chicago. So you're going to get him cheaper than any other team in the NFL would. That's certainly something I would consider for sure.
Only if we had, yeah, and Murdoch. That's kind of where I was going. I'm not prioritizing the wide receiver if DJ Moore's still on this football team, but I do stand by it. The best player available is the player you should be taking off the board. But Omar Cooper, who's by all measures and everything I've seen in all these mock drafts, other than PFFs, which I don't even know who that writer was, and he sucks. But that mock draft was terrible. But I don't know if you guys saw that release today, but Omar Cooper looks like he's going to be a second round pick. And I would argue that he's could have the best NFL career of all the wide receivers in this class. He doesn't have the speed that Lemon has, but I mean, this guy was a fucking animal in Indiana. I don't know if Mendoza has the season he has if this guy's not the playmaker that he was. So, and there was a couple of quiet weeks there, but this is another kid who would, if he fell into your lap in the second round, it's just a miracle. It's a miracle.
Where Lawrence says, I think we lose 2 or 3 more games last year without DJ. I don't think it's a question.
Because you had some injuries there too.
Well, you definitely lose 2 or 3 more games without
right.
DJ Moore
and this is a good point,
he caught 2 game-winning touchdowns.
And this is a good point.
You definitely lose 2 games without
where you lost Rome, DJ, because DJ was. I mean, I was checking milk cartons for DJ Moore in the early half of the season, guys, and then once Rome Odunze got injured, DJ Moore really stepped into a much bigger role. So if you move on from DJ Moore, I still think wide receivers.
What if one of them gets hurt?
Should be a priority for you. I do.
Which is a very high likely scenario that one of these guys gets hurt because 3 of them were hurt last year. So
what's the most injured position in the NFL?
I mean, receivers get hit a lot. Murdoch says Crosby trade is a waste with this draft class. We could get elite young talent instead of going all in with Crosby. I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm just saying I wouldn't rule it out, guys. Luther is a beast. Such a good decision by Matt. I agree with you, man. I think that guy's good.
Yeah, they didn't need to take a wide receiver there, but they took the best player available, and it worked out for him because that kid is going to be. He's got the highest. He's a top 5 rating in separation in the league.
Sean says Nick Cross is unlikely to re-sign with the Colts as they prioritize retaining Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce in free agency. A little bit of news for us there. News. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it, man.
It's another player the Bears should be interested in.
Murdoch says we still need help at left tackle. Ozzy's out for the year, like our linebackers and weak defensive tackle. That's the reason I said defense all day on the O-line. Yeah, but I think your most important position of football is your quarterback. So if you feel like that's the case, it's a quarterback-driven league, and your quarterback has to be healthy for you to win your chance to win a Super Bowl. I don't think you can continue to get Caleb Williams hit 68 times a season. Like the offensive line looked really good last year with Benedette and Ozzy filling in. Now you're going into this season with just Benedette. If he gets hurt, you're Braxton Jones type player. I know he's not going to be here anymore, but that type of player, I'm not okay with that. If the Bears have a chance to shore up that left tackle position, even if it's at 25 in the draft,
it's Joe
I think you have to put
Joe Tooney's your backup behind Benedict.
Yeah, but Ryan Post came out and said that's in case of emergency. So
yeah, I would think so too. I don't like McFadden played well. I like Luke Newman, Kyle. You know that. I don't really like Joe Tooney playing left tackle when he's the best left guard in football.
Yeah, Sean just said this, Romy. He said that Nick Cross is most likely going to be let go. James says Burden was taken to replace Moore. Clearly, Johnson took a shot at Poles for more extension. Yeah, but I don't know if that can be said with any clarity. I'm not in the meeting rooms, guys. I have no idea what Ben Johnson thinks about DJ Moore. I know that he leaned on him. I know he leaned on him. I know he leaned on DJ Moore heavily in the end of the season in the playoffs. I can tell you that.
But, yeah, I'm with you, Sean. If this happens, if the Colts are willing to part ways, that's they're a victim of circumstance once again, and you should always capitalize on things like those.
Yeah, Brennan, that's most of the chats we caught up on here. Sean says Cross high caliber, strong safety, averaging 133 tackles for the past 2 seasons. Yeah, he's certainly a good player. I know a lot about Cross. I like Cross a lot. I don't know. Once again, I think most of these free agents guys are just going to come down to the Bears salary cap situation. I think they still are very high end. Kevin Byard. We heard Ryan Poles talk about Kevin Byard in his presser. Sounds like it's a guy he likes a lot. Would love to bring back here. I just don't know where the Bears are going to stand in the salary situation. So I don't know how realistic that is. But if the Bears decide that they're going to replace Brisker and bring Byard back, I'm fine with that. I think Brisker is a good player, but he's been too inconsistent over his career since he was drafted. Vernon Learn says he cursed when they picked Burden, but they were right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of Bears fans questioned a lot of the offseason moves of the Bears, and it sounds like almost all of them worked out the way they wanted them to work out.
Well, the draft, especially Trappill was a guy I questioned. Loveland was a guy you questioned. Luther Burden was a guy we all just thought maybe not the highest need for the Bears, but
I just didn't think tight end was the highest need. I didn't necessarily dislike.
These guys have a future on this football. They're going to be big impact players and winning seasons on this football team. So, and listen, here's the thing I want to lean on the most, guys. I don't want to. For the first time in my life, I feel comfortable embracing whatever it is the Chicago Bears do in a draft. Ben Johnson is clearly the guy in charge of this more than Ryan Poles, where it used to be Ryan Poles more than Matt
Well,
Eberflus.
I think it's
It's
probably a
Ben
collaboration,
Johnson's
but
vision.
I think there's a
Right,
collaboration, but
they're
there's more
working hand in
input.
hand. I
There's
listen,
more
I'm not
input.
discrediting
Yeah.
Poles, man. I'm not discrediting Poles. I'm just saying it's Ben Johnson's vision. And when these guys were drafted and questioned, a lot of Bears fans thought Tyler Warren over Colston Love. But Ben knows what the hell he wants and he knows what he needs. And I'm done. I'm done. I trust this guy. If this guy, if at the end of the day, this draft is not what you expect it to be, if they take a wide receiver, they take a left tackle, and they wait on taking edges and tackles, I still trust Ben Johnson.
I agree, Brennan. That's what I've been saying the entire time. Like, would it be a little off-putting? Like, would I be a little flabbergasted if they were like, we're going offense, offense, offense? Yeah, but if Ben Johnson came out and was like, guys, we just don't think the right guys were there in the draft to fix this defense
That's
in one
his board.
offseason. So we're just going to perfect the offense and score 35 points a game. That's going to be our goal this year. I'd be like, hey,
When
Ben, I
somebody in the
trust you.
chat
I
said the
trust you. Now
defense-
go score
and somebody-
35 points a game, brother.
And somebody in the chat said
trust
the defense isn't all that bad. They're just injured. So maybe the defense improves with some help. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like maybe Ben Johnson thinks of these things differently. Ben Johnson might have a completely different mindset than us guys.
Yeah, Vernon, True Pilgrim says, I think you're underestimating how good Johnny Walker can be. He's tremendously talented. I don't think
I
there is
agree.
any. I don't think there's
I'm with
such
you,
thing.
True.
Wait, give me a second. I don't think there's such thing as underestimating because I don't think we know. Listen, I never said
It's
Johnny Walker
huge.
couldn't be good. I think he probably could be good, but I certainly wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. I wouldn't be like, well, we could just trade DJ Moore and ignore the wide receivers because Johnny Walker is definitely going to be
He's a
number
big
one.
kid. I like Johnny
Sure,
Walker.
maybe, but why wasn't he drafted? I mean, I'm sure there's probably some things that Johnny Walker still has to work on. I'm sure there's some things he probably still has to improve. You guys, he was a healthy scratch after he scored the game-tying touchdown against Green Bay. He was a healthy scratch the next week, so obviously the coaching staff didn't have a ton of trust in him. I like Johnny Walker. I like the way it's going. I think the future is bright, but all I'm saying is I wouldn't just say, well, we could definitely trade DJ Moore. We got Johnny Walker. I don't think it's an equivalent. I don't think it's.
Well, I don't think he's underestimated. I don't think he's underestimated either, True, because most undrafted free agent rookies don't get
Thanks, Learn.
signed.
Appreciate you, brother.
Don't get. Thanks, Learn. Thanks for watching us, man. Hit that like and subscribe. Come back if you can, man. We appreciate your chat, man. Always be a part of the conversation. I don't know that he's underestimated because I don't know that they gave up. God, what did it was a running back? They removed a player from the roster in order for Johnny Walker to be there. They signed him to a 2-year contract. For an undrafted free agent rookie, I think they very much overestimated Johnny.
I think every undrafted
know
free agent,
what Johnny Walker is worth.
I think every UDFA contract is 3 years, Brennan. I was positive they're all 3 years.
Okay, so you got the 3-year deal, but
you're not penalized for cutting them.
But who was it? A running back? There was a position that they had.
Ian Wheeler, probably. Is what your guy you're thinking of?
Yeah, or they Case Keenum. Didn't they only move forward with 2 when the season started?
Well, Ian Wheeler had signed a 3-year contract as an undrafted free agent, and they let him go before the season. I think remember he was in the preseason, but then they let him go before when they cut the 53-man roster down. So I think
they bet on Johnny Walker. They literally eliminated somebody else in another roster position for Johnny Walker to make this football team.
I like Johnny Walker.
They didn't put him on the practice squad. They signed him, and
I like Johnny Walker. I have no quarrels with Johnny Walker whatsoever. All I'm saying is I'd like to see more before we just decide that he's the next DJ Moore. Vernon Sean Lugo says Caleb Downs was flagged this week with a partially torn meniscus. There's also concerns about a possible degenerative ACL. Feels very similar to the Will Johnson situation from last year.
Well, Will Johnson ended up being kind of a stud.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree. And Sean, that should definitely be concerning for GMs looking.
Caleb Downs, my favorite player in this draft.
Will Johnson was a badass. I think he's going to have a short career because I think he does have some degenerative disease going on in his knees. So you're not probably going to get as much life out of him. But Will Johnson was amazing.
Foster, what's going on, Foster? Thanks for joining us, brother.
Yeah, he says, Foster says, never cuts a pick out. I wasn't happy last year after looking at the tape of every guy day we drafted. I don't know. I was pleased so much. I went out on a limb and said Ozzie will start left tackle. Silence. Yeah, I was the guy. Vernon, you know this for a fact. When people were mad that he drafted right tackle,
Kyle defended Trapilla to the death.
Yeah, I said, you guys give him 8 or 9 weeks and let's see if he's capable of doing it. Let this coaching staff get their fingerprints on him. See, maybe they can get him to look like a starting left caliber tackle. And I think at the end of the season he did.
Without knowing too much about Colston Loveland, I'm not a Michigan fan. I didn't watch too much. I just told people when that pick occurred, just relax. This is the head coach you wanted. This is the first pick he's ever made as a head coach in the NFL. Let's give this thing some patience and some time and some trust. and I believe that that's an all-pro player in the future. So I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm
Yeah,
with you, Foster. I don't think we have the ability. We don't have the right as Bears fans to over criticize Ben Johnson and what he does in the draft because he's just proven to us, like Kyle said, a seventh round pick in Kyle Monangai who made a major impact on your season. This guy knows what the fuck he's doing.
yeah. And Vernon, Murdoch and
He
James
knows what fits his offense.
Murdoch and James are basically saying the same thing here. They're saying our defense was atrocious. We must address the defense, the offense, even if we have Super Bowl aspirations. Yeah, listen, you guys, they're going to address the defense. I have no doubt about that. What I'm saying is, if you thought they were going to use 6 or 7 picks, however many picks they end up with by the time the draft's here, all on defense, don't be surprised if it's 4 on defense and 3 on offense. That's all I'm saying. Just don't be surprised. Don't be mind blown if they were like, hey, you know what? We could have drafted all 7 draft picks of defense and built some really good depth on this defense, but we need a left tackle. We need another receiver. Don't be surprised at all, because Ben Johnson's an offensive-minded head coach who wants to be the best offense in the NFL. He wants him and Caleb to have the best legacy in the history of football. They want to score 35 points a game. They want to break records. They want to win multiple. Don't be surprised at all if they decide this offense isn't yet complete in year 2 under Ben Johnson, and they need to go get 3 or 4 more players to finish this offense off. Don't be surprised. That's all I'm saying.
Watching this show, you can remember this when the draft comes around. If you believe that the Chicago Bears do not have the potential to draft a running back high in this draft, if you think they might not take a price, and Sean will be here for this because Sean loves this kid. He's been talking about him for a year now. If you think the Bears wouldn't take a chance on Jadarian Price in the 2nd round, I don't think you know Ben Johnson well enough. He wants his offense to be exactly what he needs it to be. And I don't think that he thinks it is yet. Because remember, guys, for 3/4 of every game last year, this offense wasn't doing enough. They had a good season and they won some games, but they didn't do enough in the first half of every game last season.
They'd certainly like to average more than 26 points a game. And Ben Johnson's last 3 years in Detroit, it was all over 30. So they definitely want to get over 26. But here's the thing, guys. The fact of the matter is, Ben Johnson's the head coach. He trumps all. He is the final say. He has the final word in everything. That's why he's the head coach and Dennis Allen's the defensive coordinator. If Ben Johnson says to Ryan Poles, listen, I understand our defense is way behind the offense right now. I understand that the 3 phases do not complement each other because the defense doesn't have enough speed and they just cannot keep up. But at the same time, you gave me 1 offseason, Ryan, to address this offense. I'm the head coach. I can build the strongest unit of any of the 3 units on this team. That's why you brought me here. That's why you hired me, to have the best offense in the NFL, the number 1 offense in the NFL. You thought I was one of the best play callers in the NFL. That's why you brought me here. I need a left tackle. If he goes into the war room and says that, guess what, guys? The Bears are drafting a left tackle. It's ultimately Ben Johnson's decision. If he goes in the war room, Brendan, and says, I need Price in the 2nd round. I need him. I need a running back better than DeAndre Swift. I need a special playmaker, a guy that defenses plan their defense around, a guy that guess what? They're going to go get Price in the 2nd round. That's what it is. It's up to Ben. He is the head coach. He's the guy.
I love me some Price. There it is. Thank you, Sean. And I'm not trying to discourage you guys from your belief in Dennis Allen or Ryan Poles, but given the draft that Ben Johnson just had with Luther Burden, Ozzie Trapillo, Colson Loveland, Kyle Monangai, and then you look at the defensive side with Zay Frazier, Shamar Turner, Ruben Hippolyte, players who didn't really make that big of an impact. If Ben Johnson decides to draft some offense, I think I'm fucking okay with it, because his offensive players won football games on this. They won football games. Colston Loveland and Kyle Monangai and Ozzie Trapillo, they were making an impact on winning football games where the guys you drafted on defense, not so much. Now, I'm not saying because you didn't hit on these players, you should just abandon the defensive side of the football in the draft. What I'm saying to you is, if Ben takes a guy on offense over a player that you prefer on defense, it probably means he thinks this guy's going to make a bigger impact on this team.
Yeah, and Murdoch, love you, man. Appreciate you in the chat today, but there's no way I'm putting safety and running back above left tackle in terms of needs, man. I think left tackle.
Price is there.
I'm talking about in terms of needs. Like, if you had to prioritize all the positions on the football field, which is most important, left tackle is the second most important. I mean, the only argument I could see, I'd say quarterback is the most important position in American sports. When it comes to football, I think left tackle is number 2. The only argument I'll accept is if somebody said defensive end, getting after the opposing quarterback is just as important as your quarterback. Then I'll maybe, but how good is your team if you don't have a quarterback because you don't have a left tackle and he gets killed? Your team sucks.
I just think if you and listen, we're talking about, Kyle, what you mean
Yeah,
is
Steve Romy, real quick, Brennan. Steve
it's a
Romy,
very rare
Sean
thing.
just put that in the chat, guys. About 10 minutes ago, Sean put in the chat. Downs is a lot of injury issues that are certainly going to be some concerns to
And
teams.
the kind of pass rusher you're talking about, Kyle, the kind of edge that you're talking about, the Myles Garrett's, the Abdul Carters, who looked like he's going to be the real deal at the end of last season. These guys are few and far in between. I don't know that you're getting Myles Garrett with the 25th pick in the draft. So,
Well,
so if Ben Johnson thinks I can get myself Trent Williams with the 25th pick, but I certainly can't find a Myles Garrett with the 25th pick.
That's what I'm saying.
Are you
Yeah,
upset?
and Brennan Foster says if the right tackle is there at 25, I'd have to take him. I agree, Foster. If you're Ryan Poles and you've now drafted 4 left tackles and none of them have worked out the way you wanted to, unfortunately for Ozzie, it was because of the injury. So that's really not Ryan Poles' fault.
Well, and Ozzie was a right tackle, Kyle. Ozzie was a right tackle.
And you're there at 25, and Ben Johnson's in the war room sitting next to you, and he goes, "Hey, Ryan, we need to fix this defense." But man, that is going to be a perennial Pro Bowl left tackle for the next 10 years in the NFL, and he will be Caleb's protector for the next 10 years. And the chances of Caleb getting injured long term go down a ton if you draft that guy. I almost think that Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson would have to take him. I think it would cross they'd be like, we have to take this guy. We absolutely, to have that perennial Pro Bowl left tackle there for the next 10 years, the Darnell Wright on the left side, we don't have an option. We have to take this guy to protect our quarterback. And then we could build the defense through the rest of the draft, rounds 2 through 7. I wouldn't be upset at all if the Bears came out, were like, hey, listen, we know our defense is atrocious, ranked 29th in the NFL total defense last year, but we're more concerned about the health of Caleb Williams, and we want a left tackle to protect him for the foreseeable future. I'm all in, man. Let's do it. Let's go get that left tackle that we don't have to worry about the position anymore, because we've been talking about it for 15 years now, guys. It's getting old. Yeah, if Caleb Williams gets hurt, regardless of Tyson Bagent or anybody else, Bear, Matt, that's your season right there. I mean, I like Tyson Bagent a lot. He ain't winning a Super Bowl.
In regards to drafting on defense, Kyle, you did share with me today another mock draft, most recently released mock draft, and the story's still the same, right?
Hey, Josh Simmons, hold on, Brendan. Josh Simmons, Josh Simmons, what 31 last year, and he looks like he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowl left tackle. He looks really good. Josh Simmons looked really, really good on the Kansas City Chiefs.
I thought he was the best left tackle taken in the draft.
Yeah, so good that they got rid of their other tackle. They just cut their.
Well, I thought he was better than Campbell, right? I mean, we watched Will Campbell in the Super Bowl.
Campbell had a lot of red flags. The short arms, the conditioning problems. I mean,
no, I agree with you, Dante. Like a guy like Simmons, because of injury, falls for that reason and on that reason only. I don't know that happens in this year's draft. I'm just stating, guys, if Ben Johnson feels there's an offensive player,
Steve, I don't blame you, man.
If Ben Johnson feels that there's an offensive player on the board that will make a better impact on winning football games than any defender that's on the board, just have some faith. But Kyle, who was the mock? Who'd you share with me today? There was another mock draft, and it was this. Like I said on the thumbnail here, guys, the mock drafts don't waver.
Right, I can give you all 6 picks right now. I mean, you said it was earlier. You said it was. I didn't think it was terrible. I don't think it's like it wasn't my
PFF
favorite
one.
No. I'm doing the Windy City Gridiron one. That's the
PFF. Did you look at the PFF?
Oh, I didn't see the PFF one. PFF uses too much AI to do.
It was there was a writer. No, there was a name behind it. It started with a Z, I think. But my God, man, I don't know what this dude's like. I don't. Maybe I think it was more his projection of who he thinks is the best player. He ranked his players from first to worst in the first round because the guys he has going at like 10th are projected by every fucking measure and every source right now to be like 25th, like where the Bears are picking. He had Banks, the defensive tackle, going at like 11th.
Yeah, Roberta, here, let's see what you guys chat. Windy City Gridiron released a mock draft of their own today. Tell me what you guys think. So round 1, they have the Bears at 25 taking Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Round 2, they have the Bears taking at 57 safety AJ Halsey from LSU. Round 3 at 89, they have the Bears taking defensive end Anthony Lucas out of USC. Round 4, they have the Bears taking at 129 linebacker Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. Round 5, they have the Bears taking 163 offensive tackle Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame. And then I didn't put the last guy in there round 7 because I don't even know who that is. I've never seen that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
I've never heard that guy's name. so I didn't even put him in there.
I
But
don't know. How do you,
I
Kyle,
like that
how
mock
do you feel
draft.
about
Brandon.
Woods? I love the second round pick. I love what Halsley.
How about Kyle Lewis in the 4th? That guy's
Yeah, I
like
don't know if that's
he's a freak of nature, dude.
Pitt.
He could play nickel, he could play safety, he could play linebacker, he could play. Sean's talked about that guy ad nauseum. He's a damn good player.
Who's the player out of USC?
The USC was the defensive end.
Yeah, I know who. I don't. It's not a name I gotta do. Guys, I haven't done my homework yet on this draft. I still got a lot of.
Anthony Lucas. We've talked about Anthony Lucas on the show before. I think he was a guy who was kind of stuck in between the linebacker and defensive end position, but ultimately they feel like he's going to settle into a defensive, a true pass rusher in the NFL. I don't know, Brendan. I would obviously have to look more into that draft and see if that, first of all, if those are, like you said, Brendan, sometimes like Kyle Lewis might be a second round pick. I don't know. I have to look at where these guys projected to go.
It's the first time I've heard Woods.
I like that mock draft. I like that mock draft a lot. I think your team gets a lot better if you got every single one of those guys.
Who was the edge you really liked?
I like Cassius. Cash.
Powell. PFF has Howell. PFF has Howell being drafted at 16th.
I think he'll go later than that because he's got short arms.
So and they have Banks, the defensive tackle, being drafted like 10th overall.
Cassius Howell has shorter arms, so I don't think he'll get in the top 15. But it wouldn't surprise me if he goes before the Bears pick. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, the PFF mock draft was.
Brennan, I like this chat here. I have to do some more research on Tiernan, but he says we need to trade down from 25 and get a 2-for-1, get another Aussie type like Tiernan. I'll have to check him out, man. Listen.
They're gonna do.
We all had our questions. Show. We all had our questions about Ozzie Trapilla last year, and the Bears shut us all up. Right? Ozzie Trapilla shut us all up. The guy is a mammoth of a man. We were worried about maybe him transition to left tackle. The Bears took 9 or 10 weeks to try to figure it out, and he looked like he was really coming into his own. You can't predict injuries. If the Bears can do that again, if they feel like there's another guy there in the second round at left tackle, then go get somebody in the first round or trade back and go get your left tackle. Like I said, I'm all for it. Sean says
Kilgore over Halsey. That's the first I like Kilgore, but I do like Halsey. Sean turned me on to Halsey.
Sean says, please make Kyle Lewis a Bear. Yeah, if you guys get a chance, man, go to our website, 4starchicagosports.com. Sean has done a ton of draft profiles. He's still uploading them every single day. There's more and more coming, but go check those out, man.
Really in-depth stuff, guys. If you're not a person who likes to pay attention to the combine, you're not a person who likes to pay attention to the draft and read these profiles on Draft Buzz, Sean is Draft Buzz. Sean is the buzz of the draft.
But it's his opinions, man. He's not just copying and pasting. Sean does a lot of research on these guys. He watches
Sean just watches a shitload of college football.
And he watches the season as well. But yeah, Kyle Lewis is a guy that Sean was very high on, and he's one of those guys who I think Dennis Allen would like a lot because he's very versatile. You can use him basically. He's kind of a Brian Branch, Nick and Worry kind of guy where he's not big enough to be like a true defensive lineman or linebacker, and he's not small enough to be like a true safety, but he can play everywhere, and he's super athletic, incredibly athletic. He covers a lot of ground. And Brendan, what do we know about every good sports team? They all have a good Kyle. Every good sports team has a good Kyle. Brendan, mine are
this one.
If we can, with the number 25, and then drop Caleb Banks, Peter Woods, Lee Hunter. I don't know exactly what you're saying.
Banks is flying up draft boards right now, but I don't see him going 11th. I think that's where PFF had him. I wish Dante. I like this.
I wish we could add 4 picks before the draft started. That would be absolutely amazing. Then you could afford to trade up. If you could add 4 draft picks before the draft started, you could afford to trade up earlier in the first round and get a Sonny Styles because you could just give them all the extra draft picks you accumulated from now until the draft.
If they draft Sonny Styles, I'll shit myself on this podcast.
Dude, if they draft Sonny Styles, the Bears, we've all been talking about how we're as Bears fans, we're so upset that we were so used to watching great linebackers and great defensive players on this roster, and we just haven't seen it in years since Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs. Sonny Styles would be that next absolute stud, guys. He's going to be that guy that every single person in this chat is going to be wearing a Sonny Styles jersey at some point if the Bears draft him. I promise you that. Bernard, is there anything else you want to get to, man? Because they're getting a lot of this stuff they're getting into in the chat here is the draft. If you guys want the Barely There podcast on Wednesdays. We do a ton of draft profiles. We talk about each position individually. We broke down so far. We've done linebackers, tackles, and ends, and safeties. We've done all 4 positions. So if you guys get a chance, go check that podcast out. We'd love to have you guys in the chat on Wednesdays to break down. I think we're probably going to do some corners tomorrow. We haven't really decided, or on Wednesday, we haven't really decided yet. Kind of leaving it up in the air, but love to have you guys there to hear what you guys think about some of these guys on the defensive side of the ball. Anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the Bears, Brandon? Anything
No,
else
I think Thursday with the Barely There, we're gonna dive into our very first mock draft on 4 stars here for this offseason, guys. So if you want to be a part of that, I'm gonna talk to Dustin.
Yeah, and you guys should definitely get on the bare minimum and do that mock draft because we're only going to do like 600 or 700. So it's definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to miss.
You don't want to miss that.
You don't want to miss the first. But
yeah. If you guys get a chance, Brendan and Dustin burning the midnight oil here on Thursdays, 11:30 p.m. If you don't get a chance to check them out because you're sleeping, just check them out in the morning on your way to work, man. But real quick, I just want to say, because Mind of Murdoch, maybe you've been here before. Sorry if I don't recognize you, but you've been awesome today, man. It's great in the chat. Steve Rogers, thanks for joining the show, man. It's been a while since we've seen you. True Pilgrim, Dante, Foster, as always. J2K, Bearskit, Matt, love the guy. Phil was in the house. Romeo was in the house.
The left tackle.
I think it's True Pilgrim. I said that already. But
no,
yeah,
who was the new member that said, "I'm glad to be on a podcast where people talk about the left"? Tackle?
He's not new, Brennan. That was Pilgrim. He's not new.
No, that wasn't Pilgrim.
Oh no, it wasn't. But whoever it was not new. I know that for a fact. They're not new. They were not new. Scrolls was in the house today, guys. Who else am I missing? J2K, obviously. James Christo.
Berdane or something.
James Christo's in the house. Bear Scapo's in the house. Learn. I think Learn was the guy who said it, Bern.
Learn. Thanks for joining us tonight. Man.
Yeah, we appreciate the hell you guys, man.
Dante, Romy, guys.
Breaking news, Bruce. Sorry if I missed any of you guys, man. Oh, Jedi just made it in, man. You missed the whole show, Jed.
Jed, where you been, bro?
Yeah,
where's the comedic relief, man?
Yeah, man.
I'll let this slide. Expect to see you on Thursday.
Yeah, man, we'll be here Wednesday. Sean, Jason, and I will be breaking down some of the players in this draft. Everybody, please take care of yourselves so you can take care of each other. We love you guys, man. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, please go over our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate the hell out of you guys, man. We will see you later this week. Love you, and have a good night, boys.
The fuck down.
Bear down. Good, better, best. Jed, I don't want excuses. Don't bring me problems. Bring me solutions.